Marcus, what's good, brother?
Hey man, how are you?
I'm maintaining, brother. I'm maintaining. I'm doing this from a remote location this time. I'm at a coffee shop in Midtown, but I hope the music's not too loud and you can hear me.
No, it's all good, man. I got a little Mary J. Blige playing in the background because I'm going old school this morning.
Oh, all right, all right. I actually was listening to I've been on a PE kick for the past couple of weeks, man, and I was listening to some more KRS-One and Rakim this morning to get my head mindset ready for this.
Well, I mean, I'm unfortunately I've been my kick recently has been the Migos. Just wishing I had a gave uh take off his flowers during during life because whether you like the rap style or not, that young man did like literally create the the new rap for right now. So I just been going back through listening to this stuff, man. I got a new appreciation for him. Unfortunately, it happened after his passing, so we got to just remember to give people their flowers while they're alive.
No, that's real, and it's really kind of sad. Um, a lot of times you get a lot of music that gets hot after somebody passes. You remember how like when Nip passed, like all three of his albums went like the number one, two, and three back to back.
Right, right. So he's been one of these guys that I've been bumping recently, man. You know what I mean? So I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't know he had such an impact, but he had a major one.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, man, first of all, man, I want to thank you for being able to come through and kind of co-host this with me, man. I'm gonna wait a couple more minutes for the room to fill up so we can just chop it up until more people come through.
Yeah, it's been some interesting results. It was some interesting results last night. I look forward to getting into it.
Interesting, but really not surprising if you have your finger on the pulse of like Georgia politics. But I know you know, and I'm gonna give an introduction when we start really rolling and everything.
All right, sounds good, man.
All right, let me see. We got some heavy hitters in here already. I invited some people who are supposed to come through. I'm hoping that a couple people I invited to come grab speaking and everything because I really want. They're really connected to the political structure in Georgia and nationally. And I wanted to have a conversation about this with some people who are really connected with it because right now, opinions are like assholes and everybody got one today. So I want people who are really connected with political processes to have these conversations and have the floor today.
That's right. That's right.
All right, I'm going to give it a couple more minutes and then we're going to go start rolling. And I know you got a lot of stuff going on. It's the middle of the day, so we're going to go for like an hour and then we'll kind of bring it down.
Sounds good.
All right, let's see who we got here. Um, just so you know, man, we may have a hip hop legend come through. I invited him and he may come through. Some folks mad at him, but it don't matter. He gonna still speak if I let him if he gets in here.
Hey, I ain't got no problem with it.
hmm One of the people they saying was responsible for everybody staying home, so they say. People who have no clue about how Georgia politics work.
Oh, it must be my guy.
I ain't saying that yet. I'm waiting for him to come through if he
Oh,
comes
you got
through.
my guy coming on. Okay, that's what's up.
I ain't saying, like I said, I'm not gonna guarantee nothing yet. I'm gonna make it be a surprise if he pops in. If he ain't buying no car, no another old school.
Right, all right.
All right.
What he say? Riding down old Natty.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm actually gonna head over to Edgewood a little bit later and grab some beef at some Jamaican spot.
Over there across the street from the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
All right. I'll get enough people in. We just gonna let it roll because I know, like I said, it's the middle of the day. People got stuff to do. Um, welcome everybody. If you don't know who I am, my name is TorraineWalker, and I'm having this space today because I want to talk about the results of the Georgia election and the national election as well. The title of this post is "Don't Blame Black Men: A Georgia Election Postmortem," and I titled it that because Georgia has been a battle the last 18 months. Um, as of right now, I'm actually going to put some numbers up on the jumbotron. The Associated Press just released the current numbers from the election. There's a few states still in play: Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Alaska, Georgia, definitely. And right about now, things are kind of half and half down the road. Let me put this up so you can take a look at it. Right now, things are kind of in flux. The balance of power in the country could go either way right now. But things look good for the Democratic side. But again, by the end of the day, that will really tell the tale. Um, and I wanted to have a conversation about this because, as you all know, Stacey Abrams lost last night to Kemp. And there's a lot of flying around about why she lost, what happened, who's responsible. And a lot of that is pretty much going the way I predicted. You haven't seen any official things coming from news magazines yet, but a lot of the chatter online and in a lot of these spaces is this is the fault of black men, and that's a false narrative. And I wanted to talk about that, and I wanted to bring some people in who are connected to the political structure in Georgia to have that conversation. And co-hosting this with me right now is my brother Marcus Ferrell. He is very connected to the political power bases in Georgia, and also how the system in this country, not this country, but in this state works. So, Marcus, I'd love to have your thoughts on this. And while you're doing that, I'll put some things on the jumbotron so we can discuss. And if you know my spaces, you know the rules. We let everybody speak. We don't have a lot of. I don't do battling, and we don't do reality show stuff in here. We let people speak their piece. And if somebody wants to rebut, put your hand up, and then we'll bring you in to speak. You got the floor.
Hey, everybody. Marcus Ferrell, former deputy campaign director for Stacey Abrams in 2018, former national Black Outreach director for Bernie Sanders in 2016, I believe, and cannabis entrepreneur Negro. Um, and here's the thing about last night's election. So we want to go through it. It looks like Warnock is headed towards a runoff, and it also looks like Stacey, who called Brian Kemp last night, lost her election. And I mean, there's been open chatter across the board leading up to this election about the treatment, the campaigning, and the all-out effort to surround and love on, and also get black men to vote, specifically Democratic, and also the blame game, of course, has started weeks before the election of last night's election, and I have a couple of viewpoints on this. When it comes down to it, Stacey Abrams. Well, let's talk about Warnock, right? First, we'll go top of the ticket. Raphael Warnock has centered himself within the black community for years, being the pastor of the church that he pastors, and also being a part of New Georgia Project, a black-led organization in the state of Georgia that has registered and also turned out over a million people in general. Then also, actually, one of the few organizations in Georgia that talks about black issues and actually speaks to black men. If you look at Georgia Vibe, their program for black men, they've been doing it for about 4 years now, where they learn the issues from black men and they turn around and make sure that try to hold politicians accountable. With that being said, there has been plenty of conversation surrounding how did Abrams do with black male voter outreach, and our host and I sometimes disagree, sometimes agree, but there's a lot of platitudes and the whole and all the gimmicks that has happened as towards trying to get black men to vote is a real thing. If we talk about what it looks like to organically have a conversation with black men, we don't have to necessarily sensualize it. We don't have to sexualize it. We don't have to jigaboo it. We don't have to. Black men don't like being approached in disrespectful ways, and that is something that kind of happened from the Democratic Party in certain ways, and not even the party. I want to say individuals who think they're bringing the best to the table, but don't realize that there was a lot of entities that led up to black men not feeling unengaged. That's one side. There's also a factual side, another side, very factual, and that is this. Black men voted for Stacey Abrams last night. And even if you counted all the Kemp voters that were black males, that were Kemp voters, Stacey would have still lost that election. So it's time for us to do two things, in my opinion. Not keep looking at black men like we are not engaged, because we are engaged. If we decide to vote, we are already voting right now. Whether these folks deserve our vote or not, that's a different conversation. But what I will say is that the narrative that black men are to blame for Democratic losses died last night officially. And any that narrative is a complete fucking idiot, excuse my language, and has no idea about voter turnout. I repeat this, that if every single black male Kemp voter voted for Stacey Abrams last night, the results of the election would have still been the same. Therefore, you can't use that narrative any longer. And specifically surrounding the conversation about us showing up and us supporting Black women, we do. We do at a high rate. And to be quite honest with you, the average voter, the average Black male voter, is not something that obviously the gatekeeping class of the Democratic Party has any basic understanding of. They probably do understand is that they need our votes, but they don't necessarily want to address our issues at the same time. So there's a couple of things, in my personal opinion. I do feel bad. I did vote for Abrams. I did vote for Warnock. I didn't vote a down ticket, complete Democrat. There were some people that I just didn't like, and it is what it is. But the ticket, I did vote for these two, specifically because I had conversations with both of these two, and I know most folks aren't as privy to have these conversations with these candidates at this level on a personal basis. I did. There were certain things that I appreciated, but on the same token, there's many more things that I didn't appreciate coming from the campaign, specifically when it came down to how they engaged us. But I want to make one thing very clear, and this is just my opinion. I believe Stacey Abrams herself did organically care about Black male issues. I do think that she went out to neighborhoods and did the things that she was supposed to do. I think that there were people surrounding her and people who are a part of the Democratic establishment that sort of put a tarnish and a bad taste in a lot of folks' mouth when it came down to turning out Black male Democrats. So whether win, lose, or draw, we're going to see how that affects the state of Georgia. There's a lot of Black people in the Black Belt who did lose out from Kemp getting reelected. And what I mean by that is the hospital funding that we don't get, that we're not going to get now. Some of the basic police reform items that needs to happen in the state of Georgia, specifically around middle and lower class Black men. And also, lastly, just the simple fact of the engagement to vote. There is a historic aspect of voter suppression in the state of Georgia, and signs of it happened yesterday. Probably not to the same degree as it has happened in the past, but it definitely happened. So, I mean, I look at this thing in two ways. I look at it from an aspect of, yeah, you know what? We turned out, even when folks were saying don't turn out. And yes, some of us voted Republican, and no, there wasn't enough of us to swing the tide for Brian Kemp. So that's just my factual kind of viewpoints, and I'll pass it back to you, Big Dog.
No, thank you for that, man. I'm glad you set the room with that with some hard data and somebody who actually knows how these things work in the state. Since you talked about numbers, I want to run through the numbers real. Look up on the jumbotron. I put up the exit polls that Michael Harriet did earlier this late last night, and I'm just going to run through the numbers really brief. White men voted 23% for Stacey Abrams and 76% for Brian Kemp. White women voted 27% for Abrams and 72% for Brian Kemp. Latino men voted 55% for Stacey Abrams and 44% for Brian Kemp. Women voted 55% for Abrams, 43% for Kemp. All other ethnic groups voted 50% for Stacey Abrams and 47% for Brian Kemp. Black women voted 93% for Stacey Abrams and 6% for Brian Kemp. Black men voted 84% for Stacey Abrams and 14% for. So how the numbers stand as of 12:15 today. So going by these numbers, Black men and Black women overwhelmingly voted for Stacey Abrams in the state of Georgia, and we also voted as a block compared to every other group. Every other group was either completely skewed one way or the other or split down the middle. So what I want to ask you, man, men lie, women lie. Numbers don't lie. Sometimes they dance, but they usually don't lie. So I want to ask you, where does this idea of scapegoating Black men and making them out to be the boogeyman come from in the first place? Especially from people who don't even live in this state and are trying to automatically go to that.
In my opinion, this whole ethos comes from outside of our community, and is a very and some of the folks who are anti-Black male in politics are that way because of the realization of how much work you have to do to address Black male issues in the current state of politics right now. So if you know you're not going to take care of a certain demographic, you know that you're not going to speak to these issues. You know that you've historically done a bad job. You know that you have a president, whether you love him or don't like them, but that president, our current president, wrote one of the most damaging bills. And I know you're not allowed to say this in certain circles, right? You're not
You can
allowed
say
to
it here.
say, yeah, you're not allowed to say, oh, the crime bill was written by our current president, but it was, right? Factually, it was. So doing the work to reverse that right there to make black men who are historically Democratic voters, Democrats at a high number, it takes a lot of work, and I don't think that the effort from these folks is there, and it takes more work than they're willing to actually do. I mean, why do that when you could put out a twerking video? Why do that when you could put out anything else that is sort of shucking and jiving instead of bringing home the bacon for our communities, specifically black men within our communities. So when we have these conversations, we have to realize that, like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Well, in this case, the damn egg came first. If you consider it issues that is supposed to go to the black community, there is a issue problem, and there is a policy problem from the Democratic Party that hasn't been spoken of enough. So we get false platitudes and we get a lot of unnecessary energy. How do you end poverty in black communities? How do you keep black families together? How do you make sure that black women who are having kids still have a opportunity to live a wholesome life with a proper amount of health care? How do you do these things? Well, there has been sort of a separation from trying to separate us from black women from the outside of our community, that a lot of folks inside of our community have parroted these narratives that have necessarily, to save face and to make sure that their person gets elected, they get sent out in droves, and they always starts around October. So the question I ask everybody is this: uh, in January 2nd, as of today, in December, and next month in December, in January, and February of this year, are we going to see the same outreach? Are we going to see the same pressure points put on the current elected officials to do things for black men? Are we going to see these or is this just an electoral thing to make sure that we get addressed during the election, and then right after the election is over, we go back to the same thing? Oh, screw those guys. Those guys don't necessarily mean much. They don't donate a lot to our campaigns, so therefore we do not have to take care of them policy wise. There's a lot of Democrats that sign on to very harsh, harsh bills that go against our communities. That is perfectly fine talking about. Was never perfectly fine talking about, but it's very interesting that they don't address our issues after the election is over, and that's when the real work comes in. So you guys think that that's going to happen? Does this room think that the Democrats who have won are going to go back to the drawing board and say, we talked to black men during the election, they know what we want, but are they going to be able to turn it right around and actually try to get some policy passed for us?
Brother, you said a word, man. And the other thing I want to mention, I'm glad you brought that up. Look, I know if y'all are connected to a politician, if you've ever voted, I'm pretty sure y'all phones have been blown up like mine has over the last damn month, with people calling you and texting you and telling you this is the most important election in history. And I think at one point, three people were knocking on my door a day. And I know my phone was blowing up with messages that were going straight to my spam because I got messages. Okay, today is November the 9th. My phone hasn't rung once. And I think that's very indicative of the fact that you're talking about, Marcus, that people put this full court press on like 2 months before an election. The minute that election is over, nobody goes back to follow up and see what kind of issues people are concerned about, either prior to the election, past the election, or going forward for new elections. And I think, in my opinion, it kind of reminds me of what happens if you're trying to date somebody and they basically ghost you, where you get a lot of love bombing at first, and then once they get what they want, then they disappear off the face of the earth. I want to bring in, oh, we got, thank you. I want to bring in somebody, add somebody else to the panel, somebody you should know, and if you don't know, you need to know. Tezlyn Figaro is in the building. And this is my sister. She's been setting things on fire for the past couple of days with the Revolt summits. And also, she really stood up for us on the Hill a couple of days ago. So I got nothing but love and respect for her. Sister, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing fine. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. So can everybody else. How you
I'm
doing?
doing good. What's up, Marcus? I didn't know you were in the building. You should have did my introduction. Let's start over. I need Marcus to do my introduction.
All right. All right. All right. You're going to turn up.
Mike, check 1 2. Thing on. Hey, yo, listen, everybody. We have a very special guest, somebody very important to me. One of the only women on the planet who can cuss me out, and I still love her the next day like ain't nothing changed. This woman has been a advocate for us since the moment I met her. We worked together on Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign. She has been a advocate, a business owner, hiring black folks and brown folks in Houston and in Orlando, I believe, and also has just been on the come up this year, covering and speaking about black issues as much as she possibly can, and has been holding down the fort. My sister Tezlyn Figaro is someone who should be respected, is garnishing the respect that she could get, and even more importantly, speaks truth to power, even teaching me and my black ass how to make sure that I speak to folks who have done me wrong and fight for it. So I love you, sister. I'm glad you're here with us.
Thank you. I
No
wanted
doubt.
Marcus to, yeah, I wanted Marcus to do that. Was I'm humbled by this on a serious note, but I wanted Marcus to introduce, because I don't know, if you know that him and I have a relationship, and and really that the room knows that Marcus and I work together, because it's so relevant, to what I'm about to say. I
Yeah,
am just
Marcus is more Fat Man Scoop. I'm more Quiet Storm. So yeah, he did you the right way.
Okay, yeah. Well, we worked together on the campaign, and it's so relevant to why I'm sitting over here hotter than fish grease now, because I just did a hit this morning on Mark Lamont Hill's show. It'll air this evening. I don't know if they'll put in it or not. But what I'm just very disturbed about this morning, and again, that's why I wanted Marcus to, to let the room know that Marcus and I worked together on the Bernie Sanders campaign, because that was one of the things that I mentioned this morning. What I'm finding deeply disturbing is, and I want, there's two things here. One, we should always be pushing the strategy of respect our vote, invest in our vote, understand that we have demands, understand that if those demands are not met, little by little we will continue to pull away, and that does not translate to vote, to say that everybody's going to vote for Republicans or helping a Republican. It's also important to know that there are black men and women who are conservatives, believe it or not. I know that is a hard thing to process, but there are black Republicans and black conservatives, and sometimes those things are not two and the same. There are people that have conservative values that will just not align themselves with the Democrat Party, and you can usually call those folks independent. For the sake of the room, I'm independent. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I don't label myself as a progressive. And even when I worked on the Bernie Sanders campaign, and Marcus was my boss, and I even told him I do not align with all of the progressive views, does not mean that I don't believe that some of the progressive candidates are the best candidates for the black community, but it also doesn't mean that I'm going to ignore who I am and other values that I have that may lean moderate and more conservative than a progressive. And it does not mean that I am a um, which I like to call them in the progressive movement, a low information voter or neoliberal, or all of these different words. It just
The,
means that I
the hot term
that
is
I
misinformed now. That's the one now.
yeah,
Misinformed.
what they love using it on, well, on the progressive side, they've always used it misinformation, low information. It was actually, and Marcus can attest to that. It was actually on our outreach memos and emails, and hey, we need to target, low information voters, and so that's always been a coded word on the operative side. I don't know how many folks in the room actually, worked on campaigns, but actually working on campaigns and speaking from it. I am a pundit. I am on, I do punditry, but the things that I speak about have come from either, working on a campaign, seeing the behind the scenes that goes on that a lot of people just may not have privy to, which is why I'm looking at two things here. One, continue to say yes. You either, get the things that we ask, or you're going to continue to lose our vote. The simple fact that in Georgia, that I'm talking about specifically, the simple fact that Georgia needs to understand it's a problem is the fact that Walker didn't even know he was running for office. This man didn't even know he was on the ballot. The fact that his kids have campaigns saying, "Don't vote for my daddy," and we still see that this election may go runoff, means that Democrats, you need to slow your roll on the celebrating that you're doing, because that is not a victory. If Warnock is the candidate that they say, if the Democrat Party is the candidate they say, then why is it that you are barely if at all, winning today or possibly going into a runoff. So what does that tell me? That tells me you have it on lock that you think that you do, even though the pundits this morning are saying, oh yeah, the Republicans were wrong. No, it was not a red wave. But at the end of the day, who wins right now? The Congress can still possibly go either way, and they say it may go to Republicans. So at the end of the day, if the Republicans win the Congress, regardless if they didn't pick up enough seats or not, they still will be in control of the Congress. And at the end of the day, if the Democrats still allegedly control the Senate, guess what, Marcus? They still don't control the Senate because Manchin is not letting anything go by. So in my
Exactly.
opinion, the Democrats, the Republicans will be in charge of the Senate as well as the Congress, which means that nothing gets done. So I find it amazing. The Democrats are doing this victory lap. It is mainly the pundits on cable news because they have to show the people that give them consulting fees. They have to pretend as if they know what they're talking about. So there's a couple of things here. One, there was not a blue wave either. It was not a red wave, but it damn sure wasn't a blue wave. It was a very clear message that somebody is still getting it wrong in respect to Georgia with black men. I get it, brothers, and even for black voters. I know we want to say, hey, there's some folks that want to say, hey, because of us. Well, the data just really doesn't show that. The data shows that even if every black man voted for Stacey Abrams, she still would have lost. The data shows that black men have overwhelmingly voted for Stacey Abrams. The data also shows that the Latino vote was down the middle like it always is. The data shows that the GOP invested in over 30 different diversity centers, brick and mortar centers, that were not pushing one candidate over the other, that literally just set up offices to bring the Latino voters in to talk about why they should be conservative. They ran workshops on citizenship, they had family events, they had concerts, they had food. They literally just went in to build a relationship. And over 20 of those centers were dedicated specifically to the Latino community. They made a huge investment. Someone in the Twitter said on my post, yeah, well, they're only 6% of the population. To those in the room, voting and get out to vote never about the population because 100% of no population votes. A get out to vote strategy is simply about how many active or how many people, possible voters, can we get to the polls. Nothing to do with 100,000 people that are in a city. It is about how many of the 20,000 can we move our way. And the GOP understood that all they needed to do was move votes of 1 or 2%, like we did in like we did in Michigan, Marcus. Remember with the Bernie Sanders when they thought they had Detroit on lock? All it took was a 1 or 2% difference to make a difference. So there's two things we need to talk about. Yes, Democrats should be winning by a landslide next time. And in order to do that, you need to offer more to our communities, not just to black men, not just to black women, but to our community as a whole. But two, understanding this, and I'll land my plane. Please be careful with understanding the difference between folks that tell me, use it as leverage and say, black men didn't vote for you. No, in the national media space, when I am on these outlets, Fox News on Friday, Fox News on Saturday, I cannot be a part of, and the black pundits that did it on MSNBC, that did it today, just a couple of hours ago, that want to blame black men or particularly want to blame Killer Mike, that is dangerous because you are not presenting strategy to anybody. It is not a strategy, it is a setup. Let me say it again. It is not a strategy, it is a setup. When you allow black men to have a shellacking, a public shellacking, to say this is the black man's problem, this is the black man's fault, to blame a black man on a system that has consistently and systematically done nothing but destroy black people, that is basically saying, I'm okay with you pulling Mike up by a tree and shellacking him and beating him to death in front of Master. You are doing Master's bidding. You don't have to like how Killer Mike moved and if he should have supported Stacey or if he should have did this or that, but I will not stand on any panel and allow somebody to shit on black men, because if you are about black men, then guess what? They have a right and a choice as well, even if it is conservative. And then, Marcus, I had to remind this commentator that it was Killer Mike and Nina Turner and the black people on the Bernie Sanders campaign in 2016 that forced or even or demanded that Bernie Sanders support Stacey Abrams. See, that's the part they don't know. I was in the car the day that Stacey Abrams called Senator Turner, and I told her this morning, it's time to go ahead and let the cat out the bag. Let's stop bullshitting around. The day that the establishment was not supporting Stacey Abrams, she called and she was in tears saying that people were supporting her. And Senator Turner said, I'm going to get behind you as a black woman. And so did Killer Mike, and so did the others. And this particular commentator that I'm waiting on to call me, because he got till high noon to call me, and then it's going to be on and popping. He called me a liar and said that, no, that's all cap. Then he switched. How was it cap, brother, when I was in the car? Well, you wasn't privy to the conversations. I was in the goddamn car, brother, when the call was made. And then he went further to say that, well, Bernie Sanders did not support until May. I don't give a damn how long it took. The bottom line is he still supported. So, and then he switched it up. Well, I'm talking about last time. What I was talking about in the initial, because the question was asked to me, what happened between Stacey in the beginning and Stacey now? And they shitted on Killer Mike. And I wanted that to be clear. You're not going to sit up here and shit on my brother. And that has nothing to do with me capping for Bernie Sanders, because if don't nobody know it, Marcus on this phone knows it. I have called out Bernard like nobody's business, to the point of filing a lawsuit against that revolution for anti-black racism. I won't stand for progressives that shit on black people. I don't stand for Democrats that do it, conservatives that do it, publics that do it. You're not going to do it. You're not going to sit up here and buck break our men and brothers who want to use this as strategy. Please be careful with that, because they right now have the power. They have the power. They're not going to see it as a strategy. We can do amongst ourselves, and we can, and if you want to push that message to them, tell them next time, if you want to win by landslide, come to and bring us more. But please do not say that she lost because of black men, because it's simply just not a fact. Black men were in droves, and there are some black men that are not feeling you, and that's okay too. And they need to do a better job with engaging. Like I said on my hit with the heels, who want to see it, look it up. It's on my pinned tweet. No, you don't blame anybody who cheated in a relationship on
I'm
the
gonna
person
post
who
it up.
got.
I'm gonna put it up on the jumbotron right
Thank you.
now.
You don't blame people in a relationship. Cheat on me, Marcus. You don't say, well, you should have just cooked more. Or what if you did? No, you cheated. Bottom line, accept responsibility for the cheating. Do better in the relationship, Democrat Party. Do better to engage who's been married to you for the last 60 years. Right now, people are tipping out. They tipping out with a man called Jody. A lot of y'all probably too old to know who Jody is. But Jody done came and got somebody's woman. And so that is the conversation that we need to have, because it should have been a landslide victory in Georgia, and it was not. And you can blame Democrats for that, but please do not blame black men for doing their civic duty to exercise their vote. And so I'll just leave it with that, that we must be clear and have these different nuances of conversations, and check these black pundits that are sitting up here telling black men they should have just fell in line. The devil is a lie. They did fall in line, but just because they didn't fall your way does not mean that they're insignificant.
To, right.
Woo!
If I may, real
Boy.
quick,
Hold on. We're gonna keep order in the space. First of all,
because
I
I
want
want
to
to do
thank
some house
Tezlyn.
cleaning. About raise your hand, folks. If you want to speak and you're on stage, please raise your hand so we know
Yeah.
who's next.
Y'all know the rules in here. Like, if you have something to say, put your hand up and we'll get to you. We got the order in place. But first of all, I want to thank you, Tezlyn, for giving us that heat, because we needed that, and we needed some real solid information about what's going on, because right now everybody's talking and ain't saying nothing. So thank you for that. Marcus, I want to ask you something real quick. Me and you have talked about this offline, and I've talked with some other people in the campaign here. And one of the things that's kind of going on behind the scenes that's not really coming to the surface yet is the fact that a lot of people who were running Stacey's campaign in Georgia did not really know Georgia. For some ungodly reason, she had people who were coming down here outside of the state who were handling her messaging, and her messaging was not really connecting with a lot of people who are in the grassroots and poor and working in Georgia and in Atlanta. A little bit about that.
Yeah, I can. There was a nice even mix, but to be quite honest with you, I think the bigger issue than folks from out of state is, you can be from out of state as long as you know how to get the information from that state, right? Like the issue is, did you do the right things to make sure that you learned what the were for Georgia residents while you were here? Is it the focus group that only has one black man, two black women, and 15 white women, right? Like,
It's
is
officially,
it
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Marcus, but Georgia is officially a runoff. But go ahead. They just
okay?
called.
Awesome. That's good to know. And congratulations to Team Warnock and to, I guess, Herschel's team. Y'all still got some work to do though. The real issue to me is how you go about is two things. What does your team look like? Has your team been there long enough? And are they in power enough in that campaign to make decisions? Are they starstruck? Are they willing to speak truth to power when they hear information to the candidate, to the campaign manager, and pass that information along so the campaign can pivot? And is the campaign flexible enough to pivot in a real way when it comes down to the information that they do retain? So it's bigger than just people from out of the state. It's more so getting the information and properly taking that multiple millions and millions of dollars and actually actualizing the work that has to come down to whether we are actually giving our message out and whether our message is even potent to the community or not, right? Tezlyn is right? Like, if you spend more energy trying to knock down somebody who might not be talking your language than spending that same amount of energy talking to voters who you need to turn out for you, then you're making a mistake. Because to be honest with you, everybody has opinions. They're like assholes. But to be honest with you, we don't even know factually who Killer Mike supported. That's the thing. Like, like we don't even know who he supported. We don't know if he voted for Kemp. We don't know if he voted for Abrams, right? And that's his personal opinion. The whole stratosphere about do what I say, right? Instead of let me affect your life has become so consistent, and that folks who come from out of town think that's the norm. Folks who come from out of town think if you have an independent mind and you're a black person in the state of Georgia and you have an independent mind and you're willing to question the tactics, if you're willing to question the politics, then you're a hotep. You're too woke. You're X, Y, and Z. When to be honest with you, what's easier? What's easier? Passing policy that make people like you and say you're going to do what you say you're going to do, or arguing against anyone who questions the mentality you have. So to your question, sir, I think that the bigger question becomes, with all that money that both campaigns raised, did they do a good enough job speaking to the real people of Georgia with the information that I know for a fact they had the money and the resources to get, right? And if they didn't do that, then that's might be the main reason why they're in the predicament they are today.
Let me put this in there real quick. And after I say this, then we'll open up the floor for other questions and whatnot, because I see we got a lot of hands raised. When Stacey started this campaign again, remember the first thing she did to try to appeal to do a black voter out was she showed up at fellowship, and I thought the ad that she did was really good. It was sitting with other black men, talking with black men, even though there wasn't much substance to the art to the ad. At least the visuals looked really good. The second thing she did was she posted up with Carlos and DC Young Fly and your man on 85 South Show, and I thought that was really good. And that was she was starting to build momentum with rank and file black men about who she was and what her campaign is. And after those two really good beginnings, everything stopped. I didn't see her in a barbershop. I didn't see her on the block. I didn't see her in nobody's church. And I'm pretty well connected to how things move in Atlanta, and I didn't see any of that. And I was asking myself, if you're trying to reach out to your full core constituency, why are you not in the places where they're at? You can't just be in this. You can't just be on the stage with rappers and stuff like that. And I was tripping off of that. I'm like, that's why I started asking, who the hell is running her comms? Who's talking to her? So that was my question. Is why I asked you the one I asked you earlier.
Well, if I may, you pose a good question, and the is this right here? Maybe it did work. Maybe it did, right? Just follow what I mean by that, right? Because we can't sit up here and lie, right? Like, the black men who voted majority at a high number for Stacey Abrams, right? Maybe we did work. And I pose another question that's not for this room right here, but I do pose an important question. We need to bring heat to the other constituencies. I don't understand why the conversation has to be with us, because we're doing what the fuck we have to do. The problem ends up being that this pressure, this public pressure, this public ideology that black men are the problem has become so consistent that we overlook the fact that the Latinx community is not doing what they're supposed to do when it comes down to whether they're supposed to do Democrats or not, right? Like, white women are flipping back and forth when it comes down to supporting issues that they might care about. We got more heat for us,
White
and
women
the,
carried
and
the
the,
selection. White women carried the selection for Kemp last night. Nobody's talking about that.
nobody's bringing that up. That's because they have a certain respect for these constituencies more than they have respect for the black constituency, and that's a
Mhm.
problem in itself, man.
All right, let's open the floor. We got a hell of a lot of hands in here. Let's go to Alan, and then we'll swing around to Ray Ray, and then Facts Only, and then Melanin. So, Alan, you have the floor. How you doing?
What's going on? How you doing, Terrain? Thanks, Marcus and Tezlyn as well for speaking. I just wanted to say a few words as well. So, I have a consulting firm called Roadmap Advisors. I'm also based here in Atlanta, and we did a Black voter survey some months ago that was ongoing up until Election Day, just specifically of Black voters. And what we found is that 55% of the people who filled out our survey, all of whom were Democrats, um, were women, but yet 20% of them were undecided for the governor's race. So I'd like to say that a lot of what is not being discussed as well is that I would say there was women and men who collectively may have had issues with Stacey Abrams. And the data that we compiled noted that. But what was interesting is that you never hear that discussion uh, in the media, on social media, because it did not fit the media's narrative. And what was just frustrating to me and a lot of Black men is that all of this was pinned on us when the data that we were able to compile showed that Black women, there were some issues that they had with Stacey Abrams. And Black people collectively may have had some issues, hence the high rate of undecided voters when asked as it relates to the governor's race. And so I think that we just need to be honest. You know, the Democratic Party in general could have done better in Georgia, but we cannot pin everything men because it's factually incorrect. And I just wanted to make sure to bring that up. And hopefully you hear some discussions about that because that data surprised us. Uh, but the undecided number did not go down as more people filled out our survey. So that's one thing I just wanted to point out.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for that. I don't know if you follow me or not, but shoot me a DM. I want to talk to you a little line about what you do and everything because I want to see some of those numbers. All
Absolutely.
right, all right, brother. Let's move on to Ray Ray. Is you
Yeah,
still here, Ray?
I'll be quick. I just had a question because to me it seems like I was looking at those numbers. The more important number is how many people the process. It's almost like you never hear about people who voted in 2020 and just completely stayed home. Me personally, I haven't voted it since 2008, and to me that's like a number they should really be tracking because that's the more important number in my opinion. Personally, I don't care if they blame Black men. I'm looking forward to fucking them over in 2024 too without tangibles. I don't care that they blame Black men, but that's just my personal opinion, and I'll step down.
Hey, Ray, I got a question for you, brother. Before you step down, what would it take for you to be a consistent voter again across the board? Like, what kept you away from the polls, and what are you looking for you to be engaged again?
When Obama didn't do nothing for us that second term, that I felt I had to sit back and analyze my life and see, well, how is voting? Because I was a loyal Democratic voter since I was 18, since I could. And I was like, well, how has my life really been affected by voting or not voting? And during the process of just sitting it out, nothing, it wasn't affected at all. So it's to the point where if you're not doing anything for my people, if Black is a curse word to you, if you can't stand 10 toes down in Black, I'm just not interested in anything that you have to say. Um, Personally, I think the crime bill should have been a slam dunk. They could have added us to that, and they didn't. So even if Obama would have done one thing for us, we would have been back on that plantation. But he didn't do anything, and that's truly what I feel like woke us up. Him not doing anything for us.
Marcus,
It's gonna take tangibles.
can I respond to that, Marcus? And he's right. I just did a post that I said Georgia officially goes into the runoff between Warnock and Walker. So since Dems need them to show up in December again, it will behoove them the Blame Black Men campaign now and perhaps figure out a way to recruit new voters that did not vote by offering them what they're looking for. And so I agree with the brothers when he's saying, I don't mind if they don't blame black men, but the reason why that language of blaming black men, um can, is somebody talking?
Hold on, somebody's got their mic on. Hang on, let me find out who this is. Hold on. All right,
uh,
okay, good now.
Okay, the only reason why I'm speaking on that language, blaming black men, is because when you blame, punishment follows. And so I just want to make sure, that our brothers are not. If we look at, what's going on with Kyrie in the media, what happens when we blame black men, because it's not going to be people sitting at home, you just sitting at home. They're going to target one black man, and they're doing that literally with Killer Mike. So when I just want people to understand the difference between saying, hey, if you want us to come back in December, you need to do better and you need to offer tangibles, or you need to do better with your strategy to make sure that you're able to get it by a landslide. But me personally, and I guess just because that's my brother personally, I don't want to see him hung up and whipped. They've already done this. They've wrote letters saying that he was more dangerous than Kanye West. So
Yeah, there was an article on the Huffington Post that was really based in conjecture. That had no real data in it, basically blaming him for Kemp taking the election before the election even went through. And all he said was he ran a better campaign.
And he was only talking about that particular week. The show was called Hell of a Week. He only talked about that particular week. He didn't say that Stacey Abrams did not talk to black people. He didn't say that she ran an overall better campaign. His words were he had a good week because Kemp went out and spoke to rural voters. And guess what? It looks like he was right. But I don't have no problem with people not, they don't have to like Mike's position or like him personal. But I can't stress that enough, guys. It's very easy for people to sit on this app, under these names, chicken sauce 5692, with these names, and have rhetoric when people don't really have to find you and know who you are, and hurt you and put you on FBI lists and all of that. It's not going to be you sitting at home that they're blaming. They're going to pick one of you, and that one that they're picking now. That one that they're picking now is he goes by the name of Michael Render, and he's a real person with a real family, with real kids, with a real black business, with real black employees who did absolutely nothing except not fold to what they wanted him to do. So, brothers, I just ask that consider that as you're having this conversation, but absolutely say that, yeah, you need to do better because you should have been a landslide. I just think it's a way to message that, to say it should have been a landslide. Do better by black men, because you shouldn't be barely winning, and you damn sure shouldn't be going into a runoff. But when people say I don't mind if they blame black men, they're not talking about you guys on this app. They're talking about Michael Render, literally. I mean, literally. And watch this week. There'll be more articles. Why are they saying this man is more dangerous than Ye, and comparing him? They did it with Kendrick Lamar. They did it with Ice Cube. These are
Yep.
people that literally they put targets on these people's back, y'all. So it's deeper than hiding on this app. With respect to everybody who wants to use an anonymous name, but I do have to make that distinction.
Thank you for that, sis. Let's go to facts only. Had the hand up for a while. Facts only. You have the floor. Let's see what you got to say.
Appreciate it. Actually, a lot of the things. Can y'all hear me clearly?
You good?
Yes, sir.
A lot of the things that I wanted to say, Sister Figaro and Ray touched on, but something specific that I found really interesting about this specific political race is that I have never, for as long as I've been alive, and maybe it has happened, I've not seen it. I'm 35 years old. I have never seen a constituent base insulted, ridiculed, and demeaned into a vote. I've never seen that. I've seen constituents lied to. I've seen them played up, making all kinds of empty promises. I have never seen in all of my life a constituent base completely insulted into voting. I've never seen it, and it actually worked. I've never seen that. I've never seen that. Only for now that it works to blame that same base that you insulted into voting by large for not winning. That's insane to me. It absolutely blows my mind. I've never seen anything like it before. It's actually really confusing because I've seen so many other parties. I've seen different political parties come about from, personally, I'm an independent conservative myself. But for a long time, I voted Democrat just because my mother told me to. Literally, I had no idea what the hell I was even voting for. I did it just because she told me to. And I stopped, like Ray said, because it didn't make any sense. I wasn't getting anything for my vote. Nothing was taking place. And I haven't voted since. I have not gone down. I refuse to waste my gas, time, or energy to go vote for somebody who's just going in there to get a check and do something opposite of what it is that I need as a voter. It makes no sense to me. It blows my mind. That's all I got to say. I've never seen it happen before. I haven't the slightest idea where this is going to go. I feel like it's a slippery slope. I feel like what's next? You want to start grabbing us by the neck and whooping our asses to get down to the polls? That makes no sense to me. None whatsoever. That's all I had to say. I appreciate y'all.
Hey man, shout out to the gas. Shout out to the gas. Shout out to the gas comment. Who wants to waste gas on some shit that they don't necessarily want to do? That shit is expensive as hell, man. And that's a real thing that we need to address, right? Like,
no, that's
who's
real.
paying for these things? You know what I mean?
Hey, Marcus, let me ask you something real quick. Let's talk a little bit about scapegoating again, because the brother brought up a really good point, and so did Sister Figaro. Situation where we have right now where, and I mentioned this earlier this morning, I think there's something that's happened where a lot of comms directors for a lot of these campaigns, including Stacey's, don't want to do any kind of reassessment or do any post-election reassessment like what you like, well, shit, we lost. Well, damn, what can we do to come back stronger in another 2 to 4 years? And instead of doing that, what you're getting is let's find somebody we can scapegoat. And right at hand is America's favorite scapegoat, the black man. But I think you're seeing more pushback against that in this past year, because of the last 2 years than you've seen before with everything that's been going on ever since George Floyd. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you see a lot more black men and a lot of sisters like Tezlyn and other sisters who is pushing back against a lot of that rhetoric. Can you speak on that?
Yes, I can. And first, you know, the truth always comes to the top, right? Like the truth, you can't beat the truth, right? And the truth is, y'all can talk as much crap as you want to about black men, but if the average black
You can
man,
say shit, brother. We grown here. Go ahead.
yeah, but well, I'm saying it. The truth is this: if more people are starting to realize that these cap ass statements that black men aren't doing this, that, and the other, and then also these cap ass thought processes where, oh, but Democrats are really doing a lot for black men. Like both of those can't be true, right? And the pushback is coming, and I'm happy that the pushback is coming, because the pushback is coming from a level of, okay, well, y'all tried this in 2018, y'all tried this in 2016, y'all tried this in 2020 and 2021. Y'all tried to blame us, yet our conditions in life have not changed. Our conditions, our basic conditions in life have not changed. I live over Cleveland Avenue, man. I live over Slime City, one of the most crime-infested places in America right now, right? I live there. And you know what I see? I see the largest amount of homeless black men in the planet. I see the largest amount of no resources on that street every single time I drive on it and to get to my house.
Let me
So
let me
what does
let me
that mean?
let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you really quick, brother. Just for people who do not live in Atlanta, I'm here to tell you right now. I'm in the city of Atlanta, just like Marcus is. And if you go anywhere in the city of Atlanta, all you're going to see, especially when you hit 5 points and going a little bit further to the west end, all you're going to see is homeless black men sleeping in the street and begging for change. And this is supposed to be the black mecca. So go ahead and continue.
Right. So what are they really talking about, right? Like what they're talking about is ignore your conditions, black people. Ignore your conditions, black men, and do what we say so we can get reelected and then pass laws for other constituencies, right? And that's why the pushback is coming for the first time so hard this year. And I'm so proud of people because folks nowadays aren't scared to get canceled. Folks nowadays, and then here's the next question: who are you getting canceled by? People who literally are doing the Democratic Party's bidding instead of doing the bidding of black folks first and working within the party to push issues and push rhetoric within the party to change our conditions. That right there gets looked down on also. All you got to do is go to a DNC convention and see whenever they're trying to pass rules like, hey, let's figure out how we can lower the amount of private prisons. That conversation gets null and void because money people are on both sides and they're receiving money for this. Secondly, I do have to do a little pushback. Abrams comms director is a person who has been reflexive, has been reactive, has tried to what she could do. But on the same token, that doesn't necessarily mean that the whole campaign reacts to things, because there's so many things. But I know her and I know what they tried to do. I'm not sitting up here saying that they did anything perfect or they didn't make any mistakes. What I'm saying is that there are people on every single campaign. Me and Tezlyn were on a campaign trying to get Bernie Sanders to talk about reparations, Bernie Sanders to support Black issues, right? And then on the public face, it's like, well, Bernie didn't care about Black people, but there were people on the campaign who were like, well, we're Black. We're trying to make him do what he wants to do, but what he needs to do to secure Black voters. And they sometimes they just don't listen, right? So we have to realize that there's a lot of entities that go on in the space of running a campaign. Tezlyn, I actually got a question for you, and this is for the room, right? What do you guys think these campaigns, specifically the Abrams campaign, could have done better? And what do you think they did horribly at? We can move on to the next hands, if you don't mind.
Well, I want to speak to, because nobody in the room was in the room with you and I when I watched you defend Black people. So I kind of want to speak to that. I love topics just for the sake of talking, but I also, love speaking from a place of, what we know and not what we heard. And I want to give you your flowers on what I know about you and the tentacles that happen in campaigns where, a lot of folks like to have quarterback conversations, but Marcus, you held it down on the Bernie Sanders campaign. You fought for Black people like hell. And guys, when I'm telling you he fought, I mean literally yelling at the top of his lungs over constantly begging for the respect for Black media, constantly begging, even Black media that even goes back and forth with us now. As many of those same reporters that are always dissing Black people. I watch Marcus, literally say, you have to respect Black voters. You have to respect Black media. You have to respect, Black organizers. You have to do this. And it is a very stressful position to be in, because one, you're being called one thing on the outside by your own people, and you know what you're doing on the inside. And yes, we need people on the inside. It's not for everybody. It's not a job for everybody to do. There will be people like me that will walk away, from certain situations if I feel, okay, this is no longer, a good fit for me. But I don't diss other people, who actually are there, being the spook, the set by the door. And that's why with my training, I'd love giving a shout out, if I can give a shout out quickly on my push the line training that teaches you how to be a candidate, an operative, or organizer. So shout out to you for giving her the comms director. And I don't know her personally, but I know there was conversations, in the back end where some of those folks on her campaign, and I won't name names, were also upset with things that Mike said, and upset with things that other folks did. And there were also some digital content managers on that campaign that were not Black, that thought it was a good idea to do what Torrance is talking about with the hip hop and the TikTok dancing. And the bottom line, Stacey can't dance, so let's just that on the table. So if we're going to do the dancing, let's make sure that folks can actually, that's not her ministry. So when you're doing that, and nothing wrong, we all have fun. I joke in a lot of my, in my inspiration. People didn't like what I said the other day, at a speech. But the bottom line is that's not her ministry. So when you're doing that, and then you're doing that with a constituency that feels that that's the only way you know how to compete, talk to them, they find it insulting. And so when you're gathering up all of that, and you're looking at how you communicating in the Latino community, I'm gonna keep on stressing that when the D literally said we're gonna get 30 centers. It's 30 centers in these communities in order to have a real conversation. And the only conversation that people are visibly seeing, not the one-on-one conversations, because the Stacey campaign's credit, they said they did over 30 or 40 campaigns with Black people. So it wasn't that they weren't talking to Black people,
Hey,
but not
Tezlyn, can I ask you
all of
something
the
real?
Black people.
Tezlyn, can I ask
Mhm.
you something really quick?
Yes, sir.
If they did those many stops, how come I never saw any of that? How come they didn't have camera crews at every stop and putting ads out online about that?
Right. Well, that's one of the things that I'm constantly always telling campaigns that they don't do. People need to see. what you're actually doing. One of my candidates, Regina Hill, a city commissioner, she goes live about everything. They're terrible, Torrin, when it comes to actually showing it. A lot of it time is this elitist attitude of, well, if they don't know, they don't need to know, or this, well, they should just know. They should go look it up, or, oh, they don't read, or progressives got it really bad. The white progressives, oh, they're just low information. They just don't read it. They don't feel they have to do it. They don't feel they have to do the proactive work. They don't feel they have to do a lot of stuff happens, but they never talk about it. And a lot of these operatives are damn sure not going to talk about it because they're looking for the next gig. I mean, that's
Can
just
I say
real.
one
Hmm.
more thing? That's crazy. That's crazy as hell to me. You said she went to 30 or 40 stops through her campaign, and I didn't see a damn thing I didn't know nothing about this until you mentioned it. And I'm very connected to the things that are going on here.
Yeah, well, they weren't going to the places that voters like you were at, and that was one of Mike's critiques. He wasn't criticizing. He was saying there are some other demographics that you're not going. I'll give you an example. We did a civil. It wasn't a premiere, but we did a civil showing for civil at Clark University in the middle of the evening, early evening. It was thousands of students on the campus. Stacey Abrams was there. Guess how many people we had in the room? 50 people at best. 100 black men was over it. They said, oh yeah, we got 400 people that registered. People didn't even know we were there at all. I mean, it was just, and we were at the Student Union Center at 7 o'clock, the busiest time of the evening, on a college campus, and nobody even knew we were there. So their outreach is piss poor. This is not just Stacey Abrams. This is the Democrat Party, period. I've been talking about this for the last 10 plus years. Plus, the outreach is terrible. The things that they do, they don't tell anybody. They insist on, because usually you're running down the clock, so you're going to go to the super voters and those that you know are more likely to vote for you. They don't start early enough to get those voters that are completely out of the process because they don't feel it's worth their time. Why go talk to somebody they feel they didn't even have a shot at doing? They don't have enough multi-layer strategies, enough multi-layer people with different ideas to go actually get it done, and that's what happens. And I'll be quiet, but
Hey,
working under Marcus.
Tezlyn, I'll
Mhm.
add on one thing to what you just said.
Yeah.
There is a ethos in within campaigns, specifically whenever you deal with a large amount of black voter constituency, that some campaigns don't want to come off as too black,
Hmm.
and it's a shame. Like they don't, there's no number to how much outreach you do that's too black. But when it comes down to I want to be, everyone's president, I want to be everyone's governor, I want to be sometimes folks think to themselves in these campaigns, I don't want to be too black. And there's no such thing as that, because when you handle black issues, you handle American issues. If that makes any sense. And what tends to happen is there's this scared thought process of, oh my God, they're gonna think that I'm the black candidate. Well, you know what? In the state of Georgia, maybe you should be the black candidate. Maybe you
Yeah,
should.
to give a real receipt on Marcus's leadership, which sometimes I have been critical of him and wanting things more organized. But Marcus, the type of, just so everybody understand, this man is talking. In 2015, before people knew who Bernie Sanders was, we joined that campaign. I literally had to tell people, yeah, Bernie Sanders, the one with the white hair and this. Oh yeah, I think I know about him. We were the first African American, the national outreach team, and I think it was probably a dozen of us, maybe less. You had volunteers that worked on the state level. You had people that work on the state level, but we were part of the African American outreach team. And when we got there and decided, we all met in Atlanta because it was very important to Marcus that we start in Atlanta because he's always looked at that as the hub, for black outreach. Even though we weren't in Georgia doing a lot of work, that was where we all had our Airbnbs. And we got to the table, and Marcus said, "What issues do you want to work on that's important to you?" He didn't assign people to, hey, I want you to do this or I want you to do that. And I said, I want to do racial justice because that's what I do, that area. He said, cool, go do that. Danny said, hey, I focus on HBCUs. That's my passion. I'm an HBCU graduate. Cool, go do that. And so on and so forth. A quick example. The reason why that matters of having people with different ideas and working to their strengths and allowing them to, flex in that area and giving them the room to move. In Michigan, using that example, I was the only one from the national Stafford team that was in Michigan. They did have black people working on the ground, but in Michigan, I was the only one. I said, Marcus, I want to go by myself. Just send me by myself. Tezlyn, go do you. I went and set up my own strategy. I went and said, I'm going to go talk to Flint because while Hillary Clinton and everybody's focusing on Detroit, this is very similar, guys, to Atlanta. Stacey's campaign focused on Atlanta because they believe that as long as they get all Atlanta in line, then that somehow will bring them over the top. The same
Oh
strategy.
God, that's a recipe for disaster. People do
Yeah,
not
but see,
understand that
they
Atlanta is
thought
Atlanta, Georgia is Georgia.
but see, they thought that, and Hillary Clinton thought that. That's why I'm giving this example, and I'm gonna speed through as fast as I can. They thought that same example worked with the Hillary Clinton campaign. They focused on Detroit. Hey, as long as we get Detroit locked in and get Detroit locked in, it's all good. I went to Flint because at the time the water crisis was going on, and then Bernie, the white folks on the team, was working all around Michigan because Michigan is still Michigan, and it's a lot of labor. While they had Detroit on lock, we were working on the outside of that campaign. The 5 black people that Hillary Clinton met way more black people in Michigan than Bernie Sanders did. But because of the timing and the strategy of it all, the 5 black people that Bernie Sanders met, I went and recruited myself from the barbershops, the beauty shops. Danielle Green, who is now an elected official, by the way, the picture that they had with Bernie Sanders hugging Danielle Green, which it showed empathy. Bernie Sanders has never been one that, really show emotion. He was able to use that photo and they used it in the rest of his Michigan campaign, and it was able to get just enough, not all black people, but just enough to bring in just enough for us to have a historic win in Michigan. We won by 2%. So what you're seeing now in Georgia, it reminds me of that, of thinking, hey, we're just going to focus on the black part of the state, not focus on what's going around. And that's what happened in Detroit. And guess what? Detroit still doesn't have black representation in Congress. Rashida Tlaib, they don't even have a black representative in an all black city. So it goes to show that just because it's all black has nothing to do with how your get out the vote strategy is implemented. And so again, just giving flowers to Marcus on how he did that, because he doesn't get credit for that. I don't even like Bernard Sanders, straight up. I can't stand the progressive movement. I can't stand Bernard. But I give Marcus his credit for building that when nobody knew who he was. Any black person that got on that campaign in 2020 or beyond was because of Marcus, and he does not get those flowers from being an operative, from working inside and allowing people to do what it is that they do best.
All right,
Thank you,
appreciate
sister.
that. Let's go on. Let's grab some more people because the hands are filling up. Let's go to I'm not Elon, and thank you for saying you're not Elon because I don't need no problems. And then we'll go to Verbal Milk. Then we'll swing around to go to Marcel. All right, so Elon, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me and allowing me to speak. I truly admire, first of all, I'm coming in as an outsider in the sense of I don't live in Georgia, I live in California, but I followed the election with Abrams and Kemp really closely, from afar. I watched the debate fully. Um, I think everything you guys are saying is spot on. I think some of the things that I could say contributed to Kemp winning, I would say first the fact that he wasn't a Trumper, and usually it's often said that what helps the turnout of an election or gets a candidate to win is the people that are on the fence. The moderate folks. And I think the fact that he made it known that he was not a Trumper, in
Hey,
even
Elon,
during the I'm
can
sorry.
I interrupt you? Can I interrupt you really quick? The first campaign he did that got him the election 4 years ago, he very much was a Trumper. When Trump was in
I
power, he
know
was very much alive to that.
I'm going off of 2022 though.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. He moderated his message in 2022, true, but he definitely came in on the Trump wave.
Understood. I know that very well. I'm just going off of what happened last night. Um, but the 2022 election, I think the fact that Trump went against him in the primary by supporting another candidate, I think it probably a lot of folks that are probably moderates was like, all right, you know what, I can vote Republican and not have to endorse the whole MAGA bullshit. I think that probably helped help him with numbers. I also, when I watched the debate, the Libertarian candidate, it's one of those things that with the Libertarian candidate, he said 50% of things I want to hear, and then 50% of stuff that I think was absolute nonsense, as well. So he got I think at least 2% of the votes. That doesn't help Abrams' case as well. And one last point before I land my plane. I had a feeling, I think Friday before or like 2 weeks ago, I had a feeling that Abrams wasn't going to, that this was not going to work out well in this election. And the whole blaming black men is bullshit. But the reason why I didn't have a good feeling about her winning this election, and it might come off as a joke, is when she was brought out on stage. I think it was either Lotto or Lizzo, but they're on the same show. When they brought her out.
It was Lotto, yeah.
Okay, Lotto. And here's the thing, like, I'm 36 years old. I know one song of Lotto's. I'm not sure how often Miss Abrams listened to Lotto, but Hillary Clinton did the same thing in Ohio with Jay-Z and Beyonce. And the whole thing is like, hey, you know what? We're going to placate, all of a sudden we're big fans of certain artists. And that's the way, like, because all black people do is listen to music. It's like that's the part that it was just like, oh man, she's trying to appeal to the low hanging fruit, and it comes across as disingenuous. And yeah, and also the fact that she has had a national profile since 2018 after that election. And I'm just, I'm, like I said, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm speaking as an outsider. It's almost as if, like, maybe some people were turned off that it was like, okay, she's trying to be more of a celebrity instead of a politician. And thank you. And
You're not wrong at all. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want to speak to that before we move on to the next people in the panel. And I know the rest of the people on the speakers list can say this as well. That situation has been a point of contention for black politics, especially in Georgia, for the past 4 years. Some of y'all might remember back in 2019, there was this campaign that went around called Get Your Booty to the Polls, where they basically had these strippers twerking in front of the camera talking about voting rights and talking about issues in Georgia. That appeals to a very small minority of black voters. The majority of black voters want somebody who's going to speak to their policy issues. They don't want pop blocking. They don't want dancing. They don't want twerk videos. And I swear to God, if I see one more electric slide video in front of a polling place, I'm going to snap. But the people, going back to what we were saying earlier, the people who run these communications and the people who put a lot of this messaging out for these candidates do not talk to rank and file black people. They either talk to people who are in that campaign or in their bubble, or they talk to people who are so disconnected from you that this is what you get. The same thing with that no voting, no fucking bullshit that happened like last year. It's like they had 2 years to listen to black voters, and not just black men. They had 2 years to listen to black voters say, we don't want to see no more of this damn dancing. We want some hard policy issues, and we didn't get that. I
I
promise
do
you.
have one question,
Go
and
ahead.
I do interrupt. I do have one question to yourself, to Marcus, and to Tezlyn. Okay,
Go ahead.
and this, like I said, from an outsider. Um, with if it's Warnock, if it's Stacey Abrams, from what I know about black constituents in Atlanta, um, you know, there is a sense of conservatism with certain social issues. We still want, what's due to us. But what I'm asking is this: is it possible, or did she lose some of the black vote by placating to so much of the LGBTQ issues? It's like, because usually it's like, our fight for equality, it often have to be lumped in to maybe things that's like a lot of church going Christians may not agree with. And could that be a turnoff for some voters, considering, the conversations? Because I find that a little ironic for even Warnock when he's talking about like transgender issues. As a pastor, I like, it made me raise an eyebrow, but I will accept my ignorance because I'm not boots on the ground there. And thank you for allowing me to ask that last question.
No doubt. And I'm going to pass this over to Marcus really quick because he knows more about this than I do. But what I will say is I don't really think it made that much of a difference. I think the issue with Stacey in Georgia was that a lot of people did not know who she was. She didn't make a lot of effort to go out and tell people who I am and what I stand for outside of I'm a black woman. But I'll pass this over to Marcus and let him answer that.
Hey, my response is pretty simple. Uh, there's other constituencies that probably should have done the right thing with the advertisement. I do think that there was a little bit of celebrity overload from the campaign itself. Not necessarily saying that Stacey and herself wanted it like that, but I do agree. A lot of folks looked at her like pure celebrity instead of the person that's going to change my life. So to answer your question, no, I don't think it really had much to do with anything because black folks did what black folks are supposed to do in this state. If you are a Democrat, like they did it. Look at the numbers. Look at the results to the election last night. Black folks did what they were supposed to do. We are only a certain amount of the constituency, but back to my initial argument, where's the heat for white women? Where's the heat for Latinx folks? Where's the heat for everybody else who Stacey was talking to that actually, that she gave a strong message to that didn't come over to her side? Nah, we got that heat came, the heat purely right is coming for black folks when whether you like Stacey or not, black folks did what they were supposed to do, Stacey, whether you like her or not. And that's the reason why I'm on this live right now. Like because it's pointless for us to keep talking about how black men don't show up and how we are like not engaged when we were right. This is no longer a black man conversation. Whether Democrats or Stacey Abrams of the world or anybody else of the world wins, because black people show up, right? Whether we want to or not, whether some of us fall off or not, righteously or not. Because to be honest with you, there's a lot of reasons that black folks shouldn't be voting, right? There's a lot of reasons for it, especially black men. But there's a lot of reasons why black men, right? So my issue is very basic. If you keep talking about us, you're wasting time because we've already done what we were supposed to do, right? At least in your face. That means that you want to intentionally choose us to be the enemies of democracy. And that right is a nasty precedent that has a lot to do with anti-blackness, a lot more to do with anti-blackness that some of these pundits want to even admit.
True enough. All right, let's bring in some more to the panel. We're gonna go to Verbal, then Nas, then Marcel, and then we're gonna go to Alex. So Verbal, you have the mic. Speak your piece.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to get on a plane. I was hoping to get on by 10, but my plane's gonna be leaving in about 20 minutes. So, but I did want to say a couple of things. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Um, yeah, Marcus, I've been up terrains behind, like preparation age, trying to connect you with something I want to
Pick
chat with
another
you offline
pick
about. So,
pick
yeah.
pick another metaphor, brother.
Sorry, preparation. Sorry about that. But yeah, I want to catch up with you offline. But I know he's getting sick of me talking about with him on email. But hope that we can connect at some point. But to extend this even further, you were talking about Joe Biden, and I'll go further about him. Is he's the singular political figure that's responsible for the destruction, active political figure that's responsible for the destruction of black families. So, from civil asset forfeiture to the crime bill to a lot of different things, his record goes back a long ways. And I could just go back just about a couple years ago when he won the election, and Cheryl Eiffel was telling him 3 or 4 things he could do on day one from the executive order perspective, and he might have just told her to shine his shoes. So that has to do with a lot of that. That creates apathy. To speak to what you folks were talking about when it comes to energy, but that said, let's sort of piggyback on the Kyrie situation. Let's talk about some of our victories last night. In light of the Kyrie situation, APAC burned $4 million to beat Summerlee, and they lost. So that sister won her election. And to speak on what Marco was talking about in terms of police matters in Los Angeles, my hometown. I live in Seattle now. The LA Controller's office, his the main candidate, the progressive candidate on that side, he won by tying the homeless and housing crisis to the police budget. And he beat the brakes off the establishment candidate. So there are lessons to be learned on how to message properly and tie these things together and defeat the culture war messaging of the Republicans. But the biggest thing I got from last night is to speak to some of the things that Tezlyn and Marcus were saying, and also about Trump and the messaging. I think the Democrats kind of got a reprieve this year because Jack Kemp or Bob Dole would have flipped 40 seats. But I think they just kind of relied on Trump fatigue to mitigate their losses, and that's going to be problematic to them because you can only do that for so long before people start to drop.
Verbal, you there? Verbal, I think he might have dropped off. All right, well, let's go. Let's keep moving. If he comes back, I'll after this. But Naj, you have the floor. What you got to say, bro?
Yeah, man, I'm gonna be real quick, y'all. I didn't have much time to look at the data, but because I know the data for the voting now is probably not even solidified. But when I looked at the data in Georgia, I'm talking about registered voter data. It looks like there's about 4 million white registered voters, 2.3 million black registered voters, and 284,000 Hispanic Latino registered voters. And that was in 2020. And the Latino number went up to about 385,000 in 2021. So I think that a lot of people, they're not like they're not like they're looking at this thing where it says, okay, like 50% this way, 50% that way, and they're like, oh my God, the Latinos did it. And it's like, no, if you're the smallest part of the voting electorate, it doesn't, and you split 50-50, when you add in the black numbers and the white numbers, you're a fucking non-factor. And nobody's saying that, right? They're just saying Latinos. You know what I mean? Niggas love Latinos, I guess. I don't know what it is, but they just bigging up these damn Latinos. The white folks bigging up the Latinos. The Republicans bigging up the Latinos. The Democrats bigging up the Latinos. But nobody's showing the damn data to prove that they are, in fact, the reason why Stacey lost and Kemp won. And I think if you look at that data, they're not the reason. Regardless of how much money they invested in those precincts, which they should be investing in Black Americans, because we're the ones that really can deliver that seat either way. But they're not investing in us. So I agree with some of the things a lot of people were saying. But it's just like, please, y'all, get the data on these Latinos before you sacrifice everything to big up them. There's so many Black people trying to big up these people with no data and a couple fucking images of percentages that make no damn sense. Because if you had a percentage image that said 50% of the Asians vote Republican or 50% vote Democrat, who gives a fuck? They're the smallest part of the damn electorate. And that shit is just driving me fucking insane hearing people talk about that nonstop, and they don't have no damn data. They just talking because somebody showed a picture, and it's just crazy to me. And that's all I want to say. I hope somebody, not me, just me, but somebody else, other people, please look at the data of the electorate and figure out exactly what was the reason Kemp won, and who, like was it a depression in the vote? Because a lot of Black people don't want to come out if they're not going to get anything, right? So was it a depression in the vote? Maybe there was a little uptick in Latinos, but there is no way mathematically that you're going to tell me that the Latinos, who most of them are fucking illegal in that state, are going to somehow deliver the damn governor seat. I don't believe it. You got to prove it to me. That's all I got to say. Thank y'all.
Hey, brother Nas, if I may respond real quick, I think we know it's white women. I think we know why Stacey lost. White women. White women are the reason why Stacey lost. That's why this space is being held right now, because like folks would much rather trash Black men and throw us under the bus, and when we're doing quote unquote what we're supposed to do, quote unquote.
Exactly.
In comparison to the folks who flip every single goddamn election because one promise was made or one statement was made, right? And that's not Black people in general. That's white women.
All right, let's bring in Marcel, and then we'll swing around to the edifice and then the fire. So Marcel, go ahead. You have the mic.
Yeah, I'm just here to make it very clear. No Black man has to defend themselves against anything. None of us do. If anything, the black men that voted should be defending why they voted for any candidate that doesn't have a plan for us specifically. We have a party that has existed off of our votes for 60 damn years. And what do we have to show for it? We've lost 90% of our land. Our wealth is heading towards zero. 20% of our families already have a negative net worth. We are heading collectively toward a zero net worth. We are 60% of the homeless. Black men, I'm going to keep the focus on us. We are the majority of the homeless. We are the highest unemployment rate. Outside of black women, we have the lowest rate of wealth and income in this nation. We are the most likely to be without vehicle. Outside of black women with families, we are the most likely to experience food insecurity. Outside of black women, we're the highest likely to experience medical malpractice. We are the most likely to be discriminated against, experience police brutality, be wrongly arrested, wrongly convicted, to live in poverty. And yet we're sitting here defending black men to make it seem like, well, we did come out and vote for her. No, hell, we got to do. People should be defending why we did. People should be defending why we vote for any of these people. So I want to say, you can blame me. Blame Marcel. You could blame a black man. Maybe we could try the hashtag blame Marcel. And I will gladly take the responsibility. I will gladly take the role of the villain. These politicians go out here and they campaign on doing specific policies for every other group. Ukrainians, illegal immigrants, Afghani refugees, LGBTQ, abortion, blue people, Teletubbies. Everyone gets a specific policy for them, but black men, the group that's supposed to be we're supposed to be obligated to vote for the Democrats, we can't get a specific policy for us based on lineage. So don't blame black men. Here's what we can try. If you don't want to say blame a black man or blame Marcel as a hashtag, which I welcome y'all to do that, blame Marcel, we can try another hashtag. Blame the candidates. Let's try that hashtag. Blame the candidates for not speaking to the fact that black Americans have had 16 to 19 million acres of land stolen, and not one of them have come through with a lineage-based policy of helping us to get compensated for the land that's been stolen from us from the era of Reconstruction to now. Blame the candidates for not doing a damn thing about black Americans being 60% of the homeless, yet we're 15 to 20%, conservatively speaking, of the population. Blame the candidates for black women who are still dying from maternal mortality, something that killed my grandmother. She lived after she was given bad blood, but she suffered for decades. I saw her suffer. And 4 days after my 9th birthday, I saw her dead in her hospital bed from complications of maternal mortality and medical anti-blackness. And black women are still dying from something as simple as giving birth to a child. In Washington, D.C., black women die at higher rates than women in Syria giving birth to a child. Blame the candidates for not pushing that. Blame the candidates for black Americans owning less homes now than we did during Jim Crow and redlining when it was legal to discriminate against us. So if we want to do a hashtag, I would say to all of us, we should start the hashtag blame the candidates. Because if black men didn't come out and vote, which unfortunately some did, and I want to be real quick about statistics. And I know I'm speaking to the choir here. When you're looking at statistics, statistics will show you. Statistics can be manipulated in many different ways. They're showing you 84% of black men voted. They're not talking about the black men, though, that are registered voters who did not come out. But the most important thing that we don't talk about enough are all of the eligible voters who are eligible to vote but have never even bothered to register. We are not engaging with a base of people who don't feel motivated to vote. And when they don't vote, instead of blaming them, talk to them and find out why they have not come out. Talk to them and find out what their needs are. And then come up with policies that speaks to those needs. Simply saying Kemp is awful or this Republican is awful doesn't mean you're good. And that is not working anymore. And the younger you go down with the black voting population, the more you see that black voters are simply doing the whole vote blue no matter who, like black boomers do. So
Marcel, yeah. So Marcel, you know I'm one of your. I don't know if I can be your biggest fan because you got a lot of fans. I saw that on last Saturday. But I love you, I support you, and appreciate your passion. And I am with you 100% on what you said. I said it on my hit with the Hill, saying to blame the candidate. The only thing that I just want to suggest and propose is when we use the language blame black men, it sounds good to say hashtag, blame Marcel, or hashtag, do something else. My concern, and I just have to keep stressing this, is they're not just going to blame black men. They're connecting it to one person. They're connecting it to Michael Render. And although it sounds cool to say, well, we can just put a hashtag about it, this man has to live there in real life. These people are literally, the powers that be are literally trying to pin this on him in mainstream media. This man has over 50 employees that he has to take care of. Him and Tip have restaurants that they are in charge of, have fair housing, a apartment complex that they're putting together. The real
Barbershops
powers
too.
that, right.
Black investments too.
Right. I mean, this he's fighting for the black clubs and the black restaurants to be able to use his cachet to get things done. This is not a Twitter thing. This is a real life thing. And so blaming black men, I am all about saying you need to do better by black men. Damn the Democrats, all of the things you said. Come to the table, bring us tangibles. But the word blaming black men and blaming Marcel or blaming something, that's not going to happen in real life. They're really attaching this to a real person. I talked to Mike first thing this morning. And so that's very important. We have to understand that language. They always have to have one that they point to, like they're doing with Kyrie Irving. They have to have one. I love the support that people give on Twitter, but these people ain't coming looking for y'all. Y'all don't live in Atlanta. You're not in the position that he's in that's actually trying to make change for our people. And if people have a problem with him, I don't have a problem with that. But they can literally destroy this man. These are the people at power. Keisha Lance Bottoms is going to forget about how she was helpful for them. These governors, Stacey Abrams is going to forget about how Killer Mike was helping her on the back end. They're forgetting about these things, the people that he put to work. So I just want us to be mindful that there's Twitter and then there's real world. And this blame black men conversation as it relates to Georgia will not affect the people on this app. It is going to only affect the few that they have chosen to buck break in public, to break. And that just can't happen. I just want you guys to just consider that in your conversations. We can have a strategy about you need to do right by us, make yours in December. That's fine. Or we'll make you continue to lose. I'm fine with that. I'm with that. But this blame black men thing, I'm telling you guys, is dangerous. They're putting it on one person, not you guys on this app. So I just
And
want you
the,
guys to consider that as you're having these conversations.
and the thing about that is really important to understand that there's a historical precedent to that. We all know the history of the slave narrative, where you take the biggest slave or the one that they consider unruly or contrary, and you violate him physically and sexually, or burn them alive, or lynch them, or whip them to death in front of the rest of them to scare everybody else. And that's what we're dealing with right now. So it's a very test.
That's right. And that's my brother. Cause so guys, I take it personal. Like I'm taking this shit personal, and I don't want to see him and his family destroyed because he did have the courage, to speak up.
All right,
And
I
so
want to.
I just go ahead.
No, go ahead, sister. I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your point.
That's all I was gonna say. I just, I love Marcel. I love his passion, and I love that. But it was Killer Mike that was trending in real life. These people are threatening him in his real life, Because one of the things, if you listen to Mike talk, he says all the time, "You guys don't own me. I make my own money. You don't own me." And that's the thing that scares him. A lot of people don't know what they be talking. Like with Bernie Sanders, they say, "Oh, you over there making money." He never got a dime from Bernie Sanders. Marcus can attest to that. Marcus is the one brought him on the campaign. Never got a dime from Bernie Sanders.
Yeah,
He,
no, you
he didn't
didn't.
benefit a damn
No,
thing from
no,
this.
no,
If
you didn't.
anything, he lost.
Yeah,
May I say
and
something real quick? I wanted to say the issue with Killer Mike too, that kind of speaks to another big problem that we'll have to talk about in another room. This attitude that black men are beholden to the Democratic Party. And if we step off the plantation or dare say, you know what, I want to do something different because I have the agency to do that. We're seeing this with Kyrie. He tweeted out a documentary. There's a real big conversation. That's another topic, but it kind of does tie this a little that black men, the descendants of people who built this country, we don't have the agency to make our own decisions. And the fact that people are targeting Killer Mike because they assume that he, I guess, went against Stacey Abrams. But even if he did, That's his right to do so if he did
Absolutely.
that.
And
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 that's
he
what
didn't
bothers
go
me.
against her, but he just didn't bow down and say that I'm with her. And we are on the same page. I'm only talking about when people say let them blame black men. That's the only language, because I'm a communications person, as you guys know. I'm only speaking to the let them blame us. It was another brother that said that before you came up. I'm all right with them blaming us. Hey, yeah, let them blame us. Let them blame us. Put the blame on me. Put the blame. They're not putting it on you. They're going to put it on one man. They are putting it on one man. So I'm with all of that. I am with telling them to go to hell, screaming at, hey, brother, I was with you, Marcel, Saturday. So I'm willing to stand. We had snipers at us on the roof. On the rooftop. Shout out to Jade in the building, who was on the stage the majority of the time. So I'm all about being on the front line for the cause. I'm just saying, let's just remember that our brothers also on the front line. They got to live with these people and really got to do business and really has to employ black people at these barbershops, and our brothers and people depend on him. And so we have to be careful with that blame. No, you Democrats need to do better. I'm all about blame. Let's blame the candidate. Let's blame the Democrat Party. I said that. But I just want brothers to know that when you're saying blame black men, they're not talking about black men as a whole. They're talking about one in particular, in this particular instance in Georgia, because he was the most vocal.
And if
All
I
right.
may real quick,
Go
Marcel,
ahead.
you already know that, like Marcel, bro. I met you a couple of months before a lot of folks like knew you as a candidate. And you did something that I think a lot of other folks should do, right? Like we need to run. We need to run for office, right? Go to Tezlyn's classes, like inbox Marcus. Like we need the answer to our question, the answer to our frustrations is not we need to hope that somebody does something for us. It is we need to do something for ourselves. So I give you complete props. You know what I mean? And you already know, bro. Me and you don't agree about everything, but you got I got your full support, and you know that like when the rubber meets the road, we need folks to actually run. I mean, we're beating a dead horse with this conversation, Marcel. And I think you kind of sort of have done an amazing job, like getting folks at least in our reference space to start thinking about it. But it's more than thinking about it at this point, right? Like right now is the perfect as a campaign operative who's been doing this shit for 20 years. Right now, today is the day that everyone needs to think about what you gonna do, nigga. What you gonna do? You gonna run for office? Or you gonna sit on Twitter and complain about that shit, right? You gonna
Exactly.
run for office? You gonna sit back and try to be and try to be a Monday morning quarterback, right? Like that all that shit is capped. If you want to run for office, today's the day that you start thinking about it. If not announcing, the reason being is because if we only have two options and the options we're not filling the options, then you know what? Run as an independent. If you have a problem with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, because guess what? You're gonna get into the primary. You're gonna get into the general no matter what. If you run as an independent in certain states, so go ahead and run. Be like
Exactly.
Marcel. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
And like the old saying goes, you may not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you. So you can be a spectator, or you can be an active participant. Let's move
Absolutely.
on. Go ahead.
I
So,
take piggyback on that. I said that yesterday, and I'm always preaching that. I did a Twitter space yesterday for 6 hours. Imagine, Marcus, if 6 hours of phone banking. How much as a campaign, as a field operator, how many hours? Well, what type of movement can we make with 6 hours of phone banking? So we have to look at, and me too, I spent 6 hours, like, wow, I can't believe I spent 6 hours on this. But we have to look at, it's one thing to educate folks and talk and talk and talk and explain, but we really have to get into this process. It should be, you are right, who is announcing who's running right now. There's another midterm going up again, in not the general midterm, but there's other midterms that are happening in March. Who's running in 2024? How are we really moving that needle? Because they're not going to change their damn mind. At some point, we just got to understand that we have to replace it. It's simple and plain, like Biggie Small says, don't chase them, replace them. Let's get busy. And Twitter is great, but how many people in this room listening right now are registered voters in Atlanta? Marcus and Torraine, you are registered in Atlanta, in Georgia. Everybody else with an opinion, raise your hand. It's what, 5%, 2%, maybe 1% at best, that actually live in Atlanta, Georgia right now, but yet we can now we're talking about Atlanta, Georgia. So that's great to have the conversation, but where is the power?
absolutely. Let's move. Let's bring on some more speakers because, like I said, we got a lot of hands. We're going to go to the edifice, and then we're going to go over to the fire, the marrow. And again, wants to speak, please raise your hand so I can see you. We're going to go by show of hands, and then we'll move on. So the edifice, then the
Got you.
fire, and then
Greetings, family.
hold on one second. And then we're going to go to Alec, then Mother Truth, and Trans is Beauty. So edifice, you have the floor. Speak your piece.
Greetings, family. Hello to everybody in the room. I am not a Georgia resident, but I'm in Smyrna, Georgia right now, attending the reparations rally in D.C. I work for myself and have a, advantageous to just have the timing to be down here and making sure that did do do their political things. And the reason why I wanted to say this is I'm flipping through local channels here, and I really didn't have a chance to write it all down, but one of the local channels here proposed a question and said, well, what if it is white women's fault that this debacle happened? And and it was three uh, white females. This was a local news, and one white male. And the second white lady is a brunette, and I didn't have a chance to write down her name because I was listening for my time to come in. But she said, well, what about that guy Killer Mike? He was different things and this and that. So just to reiterate, you're exactly right. They will use us as a proxy, and if they can isolate us and put it all on one person, whether it be Kyrie, Jack Johnson in the Mann Act, or Kanye and this and that, this is an old tired play. And just want to reiterate that we have to come up with strategies, um, including with Tezlyn's class, people, who are qualified to run and be great candidates like Marcel, and who is from a large family. And I am a registered independent voter since 1986. And I will be going around and schooling people and doing different things the best way I can, and just reporting, boots on the ground. I'll be here for another week because I really want to see how my family and extended family here in Georgia is going to handle this. I'll land my plane with that.
Actually, thank you for that, brother. And I'm going to look, see if I can find some clips from that show you just mentioned. I'm going to put them up on the screen. And while we move on to the next person, I'm also going to put up some tweets that people started putting up last night, tied into Tesla's point about blaming black men. There is a full court press on in a lot of media circles to start putting everything on the lay everything at the feet of black men, like she said. So I'm just going to put up some things from some black people, some black women, and some black feminists who are already on that train, so you can see what you're talking about. And it's a lot of virulent, vitriolic stuff. But let's
Yeah, I'll share one with you because I put it all on a whole collage.
yeah,
Like I'm like this is really bad for real.
send it to me. And these are people who should know better, who are in charge of like national news media and people who have bylines in national magazines, and they should know better than this. But they're working out their trauma by trying to put this all on Killer Michael black men. But send it to me, and I'll do that while you're doing that. Um, let's see who we got next. The Pharaoh or the Fire. You have the floor, brother. Go ahead and speak. Damero, Damero. I'm gonna call you one more time, Damero. Then I'm gonna move on. Uh, okay, we'll leave it alone. All right, let's go to Alec. Alec, you have the mic.
Thank you very much. Look, I'm obviously British, not American. I'm following your. Uh,
Alec, you're breaking up real bad. Are you? Can
sorry, can you hear me?
yes, now yes.
Yeah, sorry. Look, I'm British, obviously, from the accent.
No,
I'm
for real.
following.
Go ahead.
Can you hear
Go
me?
ahead. Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm following the midterms, and I think it's really interesting. Um, One question for the host: whoever gets in, the Democrats or the Republicans, are they going to follow Ukraine?
What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
Well, it's just my question. Anybody's interested, I don't know.
I'm a, the conversation is really isn't about that on this one, my man. We're not really talking about that. We're talking about Georgia's post-election. Trust me, Ukraine has more than enough support. So next caller.
Yeah, it's a trip. Ukraine should be cared about, but like black folks have been. How about this? Here's my answer to your question. Black folks have been at war since the moment they arrived here, so we're kind of focused on us right now. So I hope you can like go to every space that you see and think about that next time you bring that up in the middle of a black space.
You know what? Something told me I had a feeling that was gonna go one way or the other, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and that was my damn fault. I got to stop doing that. But
Yeah, God
anyway,
bless you, because I don't even know why he's speaking at all. I'm getting sick and tired of this shit. When you see black anything to the white folks space, go and ask them white folks why. Ask those white women, do they care about Ukraine? Because the Democrat policies obviously are clear about sending plenty of money to Ukraine. So you should be over there talking to Karen and Susie and Emily and all of them and asking them, are they going to line up with Ukraine? Because they were the ones that voted for Kemp, and they don't want to send a damn dollar. So you in the wrong space.
I got rid of him. It's all good. That was me giving outside the benefit of the doubt. That was
Yeah, I
on
don't
me.
give
So
no
I
ben. They
did
ain't
that.
giving us no benefit of the doubt. When we get pulled over, we get shot in our back based on our color. So fuck all that benefit of the doubt. Excuse my French, but it is what it
It's
is.
all
I'm on
good.
one
It's
this
all
morning.
good.
I haven't had much sleep. I'm gonna get a benefit of the doubt as soon as they give black men the benefit of the doubt. So until then, it's a doubts given or no fucks. Next caller.
No doubt. All right, let's move. I respect that. Let's move. We got Mother Truth. Hopefully, you're gonna drop some truth on us. So, Mother Truth, you have the floor,
Well, thank you. Can you hear me?
loud and clear.
Okay. Well, good day, my brothers and sisters. I'm coming to you by way of Germantown, Maryland, Washington, D.C., DMV area, born and raised. I'm coming because, we just can't jump on a little clip out there. When they put them hashtags out there, like blame black men, are you serious? Come on. No, absolutely not. We do know that Georgia is a problem for black people. But one thing I will say, I love my black people. We some strong creatures that the Father created from the dirt. And I'm never going to turn my back on my people. What I will say is that Stacey Abrams, I knew in my gut that she wasn't going to win. I just knew it. It was something about this campaign. And I want to say, when it comes to reparations, many of the black leaders, some who have won, some who have lost, they got to be true about it. We are very serious about what is owed to us. And I think in leadership, don't be afraid of your white supporters or what their opinion is going to be, because you stand up for your black people. And I think that's one of the biggest problems, that in black leadership, I know they get paid, they get support, lobbyists, money. Okay, I understand that. But when it comes down to the bare maximum of the matrix, the beginning of everything, we must stand for what is true, what we are owed. We're not going to break anything to lighten up on nothing. We deserve each and every bit of what is owed to us, and we should not give in, not give up. And I would love to see our black leaders take that stand and demand, and stop, shooing away. I mean, like Marcel, I saw him approach Reverend Warnock about reparations. He did everything he can to get away from Marcel. And it was really, disheartening for me. So on this round, he got back in there. Congratulations. But we coming for you. He going to have to really dig deep, as them all, to do what they need to do for our people. It's about us, about nobody else. We ain't worried about no white people, Hispanic, Asian, Ukrainians, Afghanistans, any of them. We worried about, our number one concern is our people in this country, which is corporation, we know. But it's about us. And I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, sister, and thank you for resetting the room. I really should have snapped on dude, but he took out before I could really get him out of here. But anyway, that was from. Let's see. Let's go to King of Aru tribe, and then we'll go to DZ. And then again, if anybody wants to speak, put your hands up, please, because there's a lot of people who already have their hands up, and a couple people who've spoken already. Put your hands up so we can see you and keep it ordered. All right. So King of Autumn, Odu tribe, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. I'm in Norfolk, Virginia. I've been following the election very closely. I just wanted to speak on why we I don't know. I know you all are very knowledgeable in politics way more than me, but I just haven't seen a lot of dialogue on forming our own political party and forming a lobbyist group to go to DC and actually get some laws passed for us. A lot of these groups that we're saying have already got reparations, have already had laws passed to protect them. They have lobbyist groups. So I think our focus needs to be not just on voting, but as you spoke on earlier, some of us running to save ourselves, so to speak, but also on pulling our resources together to get us a lobbyist group that will get our voices heard in DC. And we need our own political party because the Democrats and the Republicans, we clearly see, just play us back and forth every time there's an election.
So can I respond to that? Because I see you have FBA in your profile. When you say you haven't seen a lot of dialogue on that, we've been, as far as those who, I guess, who are part of, who identify themselves, at least on Twitter, as FBA. We've been talking about that constantly. The three people right next to you on this page, Lioness, Naheem. I mean, we've been literally. Christy was one of the trainers at my training. Not only did we talk about it at the rally, three or four of us talked about it at the rally. Jade reiterated it nonstop. Marcel talks about it every time he gets on the mic. He talks about how we need to run for office and how we need a lobbyist group. I've talked about how we need 527s. It was tweeted out yesterday, Monday, right after the event. One of the steps was the start of 527, which is a super PAC, which is lobbying. Friday, the day before the rally, Connie and Jade lobbied all day long. So I just want to make you aware that those things are happening. They'll continue to happen, but because people are not talking about it, I always tell people, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening, or if you don't hear it. But we have talked about it nonstop. And so what I would ask is, opposed to saying, why are we not talking about it? What I would recommend and suggest and hope that you do is be the one to start talking about it. Go ahead and start you a petition committee. I am, me personally, sitting around trying to start a whole nother third party or fourth party. Party politics to me continues to fail, because what happens is you spend all of your time trying to get any party's going to have to agree on one agenda and one agenda alone. And what I see, even in these Twitter spaces, people can't even come together just to decide if we can align just to get behind one event. So trying to start a party would take years and years and years, to get people on the same page. But lobbying groups, 527, starting super PACs, Black Americans for reparations, I'm just throwing it out there. But being able to donate behind that and getting a collective group of folks that want to move forward, that is where the power is. And more importantly, the power is not necessarily going to be in a third party anyway. Ask the Green Party, ask the Libertarian. The power is in the lobbying. If you look at the top lobbyist group, APAC, those are the ones that are putting people in and out of office that have all the power. So I'm a proponent of starting a 527, a super PAC, or a local political action committee. And we have been speaking about those things. And I hope you do attend my free training. You can text push the line to 66866, because we've definitely been talking about it in the FBA space for sure. But thank you for that.
And I got one more thing to add to that. Folks on this in this space, folks who are listening, we need to create a culture of donating, right? That we currently don't have across the board. When it comes down to the issues that we need, it's great starting a space, but it's hard actually getting the money in. Me and Tezlyn worked on the campaign that still to this day has the record for single donations underneath $10. And I'm talking about when Bernie Sanders ran, and Bernie Sanders broke a national record created by Barack Obama when it comes down to independent donations underneath $10. That means that we had reoccurring donors that were giving money to Bernie Sanders and his democratic socialist ideas at a high rate. So by the end of the campaign, folks had donated $250, $300, $320 that by only giving $10 and $5 throughout that duration of the campaign. What I'm saying is we don't have to sit back and allow us to underfunded for anything that we're right, whether it's a national organization, whether it's a local candidate, whether it's a candidate for Congress, Senate, or U.S. We are getting beat on the fundraising aspect, which makes our efforts for lobbying shit. It's going to be crap if we don't have no money.
But give them this perspective, because I don't want people to think it's just about donating to a campaign. Bernie Sanders had a 527. So
That's right.
after the campaign, the money went to a 527, a super PAC. Even though he talked about getting big money out of politics, he was talking about everybody else's money, not his own. But the the point that needed people to understand is it was a 527. It wasn't just throwing money down the drain to a campaign. People can donate to a campaign over and over and over, and help that person win with lit drops and voter outreach. But the 527, I keep saying it over and over, the 527 is the lobbying. When people are running for office, they're running for office. That is not a lobbying group. Bernie Sanders, that list that Marcus is talking about, which is one of the most powerful lists in politics, because they know that any email, any text message that goes out, millions of dollars will pour in. It is through the 527, which was called Our Revolution, which I was one of the strategic directors on in that organization. So again, it still falls back down to the 527. Running one person in one area is not as powerful as a 527 that can have 10 candidates all over the country and drop money. That's what APAC is doing. And that's what we need to do. And when I say we, I'm not talking about everybody. It's a small, selected group of people. It's not a we. It's not sitting. Because what happens is when everybody says, we need to this and we need to that, what that really means is they sit back and wait on somebody else to do it. The thing is in our
Exactly.
right. The first thing in the training, shout out to Christy in the building, one of my trainers. The first thing in the training, the first session was, it's all about we, but it falls on me. It ain't about what we need to do. Most people say, oh, we need to do it. Yeah, let me know when we gonna do it. Call me when we do it.
That
No.
guy, that's the cousin. That's the cousin that somebody need to do something about that.
Right. What are you going to do? I said, okay, I have some knowledge that I've learned. And instead of me just doing private training and private consulting, which I do all throughout the year, by the way, I am so frustrated at this process. I'm going to put together this training program and I'm going to offer this for free. And I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know where I don't know how I'm going to make it work, but I got to be able to do something, because I got to put a nickel, I got to put a drop in the bucket or something, because I'm so frustrated based on what I see and not having a bench, and so frustrated on what I've seen in social justice. So I'm going to write a program with every topic and every subtopic, and I'm going to ask 3 trainers, hey, can you guys facilitate this? And I'm going to do it online. The first one I did online, guess how much it cost me to do it online? 29 damn dollars. It cost me $29 to do it online. I said it doesn't matter if 5 people show up, 50 people show up. Second time I did it online, we got a couple of hundred people. The third time in Atlanta, we got 300 plus people. And I text and there's 3 people in this room that went to the training. I text every last person myself, over 500 people, to make sure we had 300. Not only did I text them once, I text them 3 of them. I'm not talking about a text bake. I'm talking about literally 2-way text, having conversations to make sure they ass was in that room and on time. I did that myself, not bragging, just telling you what it is. As a mom, as a business owner, 100% self-employed, and they showed up. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to have another one. I did it on October 22nd, 300 people. Guess how much that cost me on Zoom? $35. Doing another one in Atlanta. Hey, I got to find me a place in Atlanta that's free. We're doing it at Urban. Doesn't cost a thing. I can only hold 30 people at a time. But I said, no problem. I'm going to use my flight points, my free points. I'm going to bring my black ass down there. I'm going to train 30 people in the morning, 30 people in the evening. So by the end of the day, I got 60 people. That's how it's done. That's called pushing the line. It's not bragging. I'm just telling you can do this shit on your own. You just simply don't want to do it. Just bottom line, let's just call it what it is. People don't want to do it. What
But
can you do to
Tezlyn,
contribute to the game? Yes,
to
sir.
be fair, some of that I agree with you on the majority of that, but also we have to understand to get this information. Information is power, and a
Right.
lot of people don't have no clue how to even start with that. So what you're
Right,
doing is
but
amazing.
I didn't have a clue either. I didn't have a clue either. I had to go sit and volunteer. I sat and volunteered over a decade on the women voters for free, running my business. I started my business. I didn't have no money. I didn't start shit. I took my black ass volunteers and eventually turned them into employees. Never had a loan. My daddy didn't put me in the game. My mom didn't put me in the game. Both of them are dead. I didn't have a clue either. I sat on the mission and review board in Orlando. I sat on the Metro Plan board. I worked with the Urban League. I worked with the Chamber of Commerce. You name it, I did it. I got my black ass up and I worked and I figured it out. I didn't have a clue either in Michigan. When they dropped our ass down in Michigan on the Bernie Sanders campaign, I didn't know nobody. I didn't know where to go. But you know what I did know? I put in that GPS to Martin Luther King Avenue because I knew as long as I go to Martin Luther King Avenue in any state, I'm going to find my people. I went there and I went and opened up my damn mouth. We cannot just be in this place so they don't know. They know how to find this space. They know how to find porn. They know how to find leaked photos. Shout out to those who find leaked photos. They know how to find mess. People know how to find the information they want to know how to find. We can't use that as an excuse for some. Those who want to do will do. Those who don't, don't. It's been people in this space that I done talked about training multiple times, but I ain't seen them in the training. So at the end of the day, people want to do, we have to challenge our people in a better way because usually it's just an excuse. Well, ain't nobody put me on. Didn't nobody build no platform. I don't have no platform. They use more excuses than anything else. What can you do to contribute to the game? I'm going to open this up again on the floor. For those who cheer for Marcel right now, because if he's running in 2024, then right now, what are the shifts? I asked Marcel this yesterday. What are the shifts? Give these people some phone banking times that they can get off this Twitter space for maybe just an hour and call some of your voters in your district that can actually vote for you because these people cannot. So if they want to be on this talking at this phone and yelling and screaming at the phone and holding their hand up and landing planes and landing boats and automobiles and shit like that, when is the phone bank? Is it jumping off this weekend? Can some of y'all get on the phone? If you don't want to be on the phone, can you text? Can you do a text or two for Marcel? You can use my texting software. It's only about $50. $50 to use it. Let's give these people something to do besides just talking on Twitter and I'll land
Woo!
my plane.
That's
Since
hot.
that's what y'all say.
That's hot. That's hot.
Amen.
I feel like I need to drop something in the bucket with that sermon. You real though? That's 100. Look, man, I've seen people. I've seen Nike tweet out that we're gonna have a new Air Max drop at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I've driven by the store in the middle of the freezing cold and seen 50 people lined up to do that. So people can pick and go show up for what they want. Let's move on to the next speaker. And I said we were going to go till 2 o'clock, so I'm gonna let these two folks be the last, and then we'll shut it down. So, Alicia, Alicia Everett, you have the floor, and then we'll go over to Trans is beautiful, Bruna Giovanni, and then we'll shut it down. We'll close it out.
Thanks
Alicia,
for
you got the mic.
thanks for letting me speak. And it's Alicia Yvette. But this question is for Tezlyn. Actually, I signed up for your push the line for October 22nd. However, I did not get like I didn't get an email or a text about, where to go or how to get on the Zoom. But that's I don't know what happened, but I'm very interested. I do want to run. And I had a conversation with one of my family members today, and I was, just explaining about how, Black people, need somebody that's representative. And he could just completely shut me down and said that he didn't feel like I would get any votes just because I'm speaking about, Black people and our issues. So I just wanted to know, like, how would I include, everybody else into something that I'm just only trying to get for Black people? And then another point I wanted to make was I do want to sign up to volunteer for Marcel. So if you could give me information on that, I'd be more than happy to.
Okay, well, thank you for that question. One thing, if you did not get any information, I'm not sure if you signed up correctly, but text 66866 and you type push the line in the body, all one word, the reservation link was sent back immediately to those that signed who sent that text. It literally was in the response. It gave the Zoom registration link for people to register. So I'm not sure if either you maybe text the wrong number or sometimes people put push the line with spaces in it and it doesn't come back. But you should have gotten the the link immediately. But no worries. The good news is I'm going to continue offering this training all throughout next year. There are five different sessions that we offer: the candidate roles and responsibilities, campaign planning, compliance, community coalition building, and campaign management. I am all sessions for people that say I got over 40 people, 40 different cities that said come to my city. I can't go to everybody's city because I'm doing it on my own budget, but I am going to try to come to some. But I'm offering it online, and all people have to do is pick one up. I would prefer people take it in the order because they're cumulative sessions. But if not, you can just come to any come to the 5 whenever you can make it. And I'm offering those repeatedly all throughout next year because I don't have a deadline. I'm not trying to get somebody to run to help me win, help no Democrat or nothing like that. This is just something that I'm just doing myself. So there'll be multiple trainings. Make sure you're on the mailing list. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. I always post it multiple times. So you might have missed the one in October, but you will certainly have an opportunity to get the next one. And then to answer your question, when you said, how do I talk about everybody else, black people, when I instead of everybody else, things that I go through in the training is one of the things you'll enjoy. Shout out to Naheem in the building. I'll just use him as an example. I train you on those things. Did a quick example in one of the classrooms, and somebody asked that same question. They said, how can I said, just give me one word and I'll show you how you can turn that one word into reparations. And somebody said banana, and I turned banana into a conversation that was targeted about black people. I talked about farmers. I talked about black poverty, and I turned that all into reparations just with one word. So that's not something I can show you on this call. It's something that you get through the training, and those are the things that I do to give you those tips on messaging and speech, speech writing and all that good stuff. So I hope to see you in the training.
Thanks. And can you please direct me to where I could find the volunteer for Marcel?
Yes, and I didn't even know Marcel has something to volunteer. I just threw that out because every time I see Marcel in this space and I see people putting up this 100, I'm gonna keep on saying who gonna volunteer for Marcel. So I think Marcel probably got to set up a volunteer
Oh, okay, I
time.
didn't know.
Yeah,
I
no,
thought
I'm
it
just
had
doing it
some
on
way I
my
could
own.
go. Okay.
Let me add Marcel so we can, because I'm gonna start putting. I'm gonna be every time you see. You know how they say they run people down in these spaces. I'm running y'all down to be so every time I see Marcel in this space, I'm gonna run y'all down and say who is signing up for the phone banking. So Marcel, can you tell us, since I just put you on the spot, what time can they start this phone banking? And when can I run these people down to make sure we get on this list? What do they need to do to start phone banking? We need to get this phone banking popping off by next week. It's too many people in these Twitter spaces to not have a weekly phone banking for Marcel.
Exactly.
So Tezlyn, Alicia, thank you first of all, and Tezlyn, thank you. Alicia, I DM'd you the document to sign up for phone banking. I When I did it last time, I started way too late and found out phone banking is extremely powerful. So I DM'd it to you. Thank you, Tezlyn. I'm going to put it on my Twitter page again. So thank y'all.
And I need you, Marcel, to give me some times. Let's start giving these people some times. Let's not
Yeah,
just
definitely.
sign.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
start let's start putting some shifts out there. We need 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. Think about, you don't have to think about it right now, but I'm gonna start running people down in these spaces with some times. Let's not do no sign up. Let's do some times so we can get them something to do, because they need something to do because they like these Twitter spaces. So let's help give them something.
If I may add this right here, if you don't have time to do something, then give what you can, just like
Yeah,
church.
no, but they got time. No, let's not do that. No, they got
Oh no! I'm not
no.
even.
Hold on, brother. Let me say, because
Okay.
see, again, this gives people excuses. They got time because they sit on these spaces.
You
They
got a
got
point.
time.
You're absolutely
They
right.
got
Yeah,
time,
yeah, you're
brother.
right.
So
You're right.
let's not, because you were getting ready. If you don't have time, donate. No, guess what? I need you to donate, and I need your time. We not fit to play this game with they ain't got time. Because I see these same people in these spaces all the time for 5 and 6 and 7 hours doing space after space after
I can't
space.
believe it. I can't do
This
that
group
shit.
got
I
time.
can give you two. I can give you 2 hours and then I got to go do stuff.
That's right. It might be other people may don't have time, but this week, remember, we got to talk to our audience. And this
Yeah.
group, damn show, got time. They got time. So they got an hour because they got time to do it on this. Maybe they need to do a Twitter space phone bank. Maybe that'll make them feel better. Have one phone and put the Twitter space on, and then have another phone so people can hear and make phone calls, because there's something about this Twitter space that's intoxicating. So maybe there's a way we can include the Twitter space in the phone banking time for Marcel. They got time. The devil is a lie.
And the second thing I was gonna say is, but you can, and making phone calls in a phone bank is literally the easiest thing that you could possibly do, because all you got to do is literally switch over, turn on the app if they have an app. If not, they'll have a list that they can email you, and you just run through. You read a piece of paper, right? Like if y'all don't know what phone's like because you've never done it before, you just basically read what's on a piece of paper, or and explain why you like the candidate that you're rocking with, right? Like, this is why I like this person. Can you commit to something? And
Yep.
remember something, always make the ask. I know that's in your training,
Yeah,
Tez.
no, yeah, but
Always
plus
make the ask.
they do this, Marcus, in this Twitter space, so they know how to do it. They know how to say what should be and not be, and blessing, please, blessing to the room, and landing planes. These are some of the best. These are some of the best phone bankers in the world, because
No,
that's
that's
all they
real.
do is phone
Because
bank on here. So I believe in y'all. I know y'all can do it. Y'all some of the best in the world. So
no, you're
they
right.
know
It's
how to
all
do
about
it. Let's just get the shifts available.
That's all about motivation and what people want to be a volunteer for. Because
That's
look,
right.
if people, like you said, if people could sit up here and worry about Megan Thee Stallion and what happened to her foot for 3 hours at a time, and people could talk about what Drake's been rapping about for the past month and ride out for like 8 9 hours and spend they have the time tweeting about that, they can tweet about other stuff. But let's bring it down because we're about to wrap it up in a little bit. Let's go to uh, Bruna Giovanni, and then we'll wrap it up with Life and More Life. So Giovanni, I hope I'm not butchering your name. You have the mic.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. I just want to make sure you can hear me properly. Can you hear me?
No, you're very, very muffled, and you're very like you're in the distance. Can you do something about your speaker?
Uh, Hello. Can you hear me?
You're getting a little bit better, a little bit more. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Okay. But you can hear me better now.
No, you're very, very scratchy. It's like you're on a radio.
Okay.
Hello. All right, try it again. Y'all need speakerphones. Nah, now it sounds like you're in a mountain.
Oh
I tell
wow.
you what, try it one more time, and then we'll move on to somebody else. But because I do want to hear what you got to say, but I need you to fix your phone.
Hello. Can you hear me?
No, I'm sorry. All right, so unfortunately, we're just gonna have to move on because I know people got stuff to do. It's the middle of the day. Let's go over to Life and More Life. Love to hear what you have to say.
Hi, Torrin. Hi, everybody in the room. This was so powerful. I couldn't hear the whole thing because, my mornings are tied up. But I want to say to the room, I hope you all listen to the experts that were speaking because they gave you some very powerful information. When you're at war, you have to have all your weapons. And they gave you a toolbox full of weapons. All you have to do is pick one. That's it. Pick one and stick to it. And if you find that it's not something you can do, take that tool back and pick another one. We have got to keep the full court press on that we are doing because they have a full court press on us. And it's going to get uglier in the run up to the Oval Office for 2024. I can tell you that. And a lot of it is based on what happened on January the 6th. So they're going to put all the fear mongers out and do what needs to be done. If you think they're blaming black men now, wait till they blame black people later. Okay? This is what political wars look like. Some of us have been in them and we've been in the trenches and we fight it. And so it's not new to us. But I think at this point, and I believe Torrin and Marcus and Tezlyn can agree that this is one of the best times in Black America because we have more fighters now than we've ever had. And we have more people on than we've ever had. And we have to use what we got till we get what we want. Everybody knows that Black saying. Um, I just want to say lastly that support our Black media. If you can't do anything to support the Black media, just tweet it. Tezlyn is in the offices. I'm on the streets, the internet streets. The internet streets are powerful on Twitter. That's why they want to break it up. That's why Musk bought this social media app. And you see, the first thing he did was get rid of everybody. So that ought to tell you something. So stay connected, stay listening, and stay doing.
and I'm 65 plus years old. I come here to learn. Never stop learning, because there's always something to learn and there's always work to do. And it as an old bird, here's what I would say. I wouldn't even hashtag the blame black men. I would let the powerful black men such as Torrin, Tim Black, Marcel, Marcus, people like that handle that. I think it's time for some of us to fall back because we can't handle that. Let them handle that. They know how to address that in ways that we will never know. So I'm not going to blame black hashtag blame black men because I don't want to contribute to something that may be negative towards it. So be careful of what you say, be careful of what you write, be careful of what you tweet, and pay attention. We're at war. Watch your front, watch your back, watch your sides. And that's all I want to say. And thank you, Torrin. Thank you, Tezlyn. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Marcel. Thank you, Lioness. Thank you, Friday. Thank you, Black Majority, and everybody else that is out here in the fields toiling.
Whew, every time you speak, sister, I learn something. It's like really getting that classic mother wit, and God knows we need that. Um, I'm going to let one more person speak, Texwell, and then we're going to close everything out. This will be the last person. So, Texwell, um, you're going to be the last speaker on the floor today. What do you have to say?
Thank you, brother Torraine. I was following you, man, but they took my follow. I just had to refollow you. I don't know what's going on.
Oh,
Anyway,
really? I'm not surprised. Go ahead.
yeah. Anyway, I think we got to really, really double down because I just saw some Democratic pundits tweeting that, oh, they should have ran some black male. They're still, what's wrong with these people? They think we want a black male candidate. We're done with those identity politics. So we have to double down. I don't even know if they learned their lesson yet.
They
It's
didn't.
terrible. Yeah, thank you.
Nah,
Just
Hey,
as a
brother,
point of clarity,
if I may,
they're saying that because
if I
West
may, real
won.
quick, Texwell,
Oh, go ahead.
if I may, we cannot neglect the fact that in the state of Georgia there were two strong black men, whether you agree with them or not. There were two strong black men that were in the primary. They probably should have ran away with it, but establishment support went against them, right? And that came back and bit them in the ass. So there were black men who ran, and there were black men that literally agree with most of what we're talking about policy wise that got ran against to make sure that there was a rainbow ticket instead of the black first ticket. That's what happened in the state of Georgia. That is a fact. Y'all can look it up.
Well, the reason I just wanted to say this, and I know you'll close. The reason why they're saying that in the pundit space is because Wes Moore is the first black governor, a first black man governor, and he won in Maryland. So the reason why you're hearing them make that comparison is not necessarily. It is because yeah, the identity politics, but they're making it because that actually did happen last night, history. So they're saying, maybe if there was a black man running, maybe the season is right for that. So that's where they're getting that from.
But Tesla, let me ask you this, because I think that actually speaks to a general ignorance of party politics locally, because is people see what happens in one state and they don't do the due
Hmm.
diligence, or they don't do the research to say that what happened in Maryland may not happen in Georgia. You know what I mean?
Oh no, no question, because Maryland is a liberal state, so they're more open to it. So I'm definitely not saying they're right. I just wanted to give the room, to answer the question on where that was coming from. A lot of our talking points this morning have been not just about Georgia, but what else happened, all over the country. And Westmore has been, one of the hot topics, as well as the Gen Z. In that won Congress in Florida. And so I was just for the sake of so people will know where that conversation is attached to. They're wrong.
Mhm.
What happens in Maryland does not happen in Florida. You're absolutely right. But just for the sake of the room, so they can know where they were pulling that information from.
Gotcha, gotcha. I wanted to wrap it down, but damn, we keep getting heavy hitters coming in here. We got Tim Black in the building. I'm gonna see if I can coach him in to come in and say something real quick, and then we'll close out on that. I promise. I know y'all want to go back to work and get your food and whatever. So Tim, brother Tim Black, we gotta have your strong voice in the building, my man. How you doing? And if you're not following Tim, you need to follow Tim. Tim is a really solid brother. He does really good independent black journalism. He's always 100. He's been catching some a little bit of flack over the past couple of days, but it's been wrong. Tim, where you at? You want to say
One
anything?
of the best one of the best internet voices, one of the best voices in Black America right now. Tim Black, man. Come on up here, bro. I just invited you.
Come on, man. We ain't gonna leave till you say something. You know how it is. It's like Christmas. It's like Thanksgiving. Here you go, Tim. What's good, brother?
Hey, brother, what's going on, y'all? Thank you for inviting me, man. I appreciate it.
No doubt, brother. Always, every time I see you, you know you got to stand in ovation, invitation to get on the mic. What's good?
Man, it's excellent, man. You know, I was just tuned in, and as soon as I came in, I heard my sister Tezlyn talking about Westmore, man. And I don't know if this has been said, but I got a couple things to say about Westmore that some people need to be reflecting upon. First of all, I'm not applying for Westmore. You know, I'm in Maryland. This is my home state. This is where we're from, and Westmore. It just goes to show you how the DNC operates, how the Democratic Party operates. A lot of people are very happy that Westmore, the first black governor in Maryland, and that's something to consider. But I'd have been happier back in, what was it, 2020, if we would have had Ben Jealousy, president of the NAACP, become the first black governor. See, Brother Ben Jealous was running, and he could not get the support of the Democratic Party. He was running, he wanted to legalize marijuana. He wanted to end mass incarceration. These are the pillars of his campaign. But because he was not a supporter of Hillary Clinton, they did not get behind him and come out here in Maryland and push for this brother. So the Democratic Party was happy to have a run-of-the-mill, more of a centrist type of that win, and they were willing to let us wait until 2022 for us to end up with a black governor. They allowed a Republican, Larry Hogan, to run virtually unchallenged from the Democratic establishment and allowed Maryland residents to be stuck with a pro police, a white Republican who was more focused on denigrating Baltimore and its mostly black citizens. They were happy with that. Instead of getting behind a progressive, and that's one of the reasons why I say the Democratic Party prefers Republicans over progressives. They will allow us to lose if we do not have the type of Democrats that they want. They do not support progressive Democrats who push for issues that were more beneficial to us. I'm not saying that Ben Jealous was everything, but I'm saying he tried better than Westmore with his empty rhetoric, no solid solutions, policies. Ben Jealous was Medicare for all support. He was from the Bernie Sanders wing of the Democratic Party. Once again, not perfect, but if you are interested in Medicare for all, if you're interested in ending mass incarceration, if you want to legalize marijuana, that was the brother to do it. So I'm not applying for Westmore, and I was going to save this for tomorrow, Tezlyn, but I guess I'll be able to deliver it, maybe even with a better, more quicker delivery. But yeah, I'm not overjoyed about what happened. It just once again shows that the Democratic Party is more welcoming to centrists, and they will throw us to the wolves if the type of Democrat that runs is not suitable to the more elitist and dare I say neoliberal or how can you say pay for play type of brother that would come in and want to privatize public goods and want to go along and toe the line of a more centrist, more Joe Biden-esque, more Hillary Clinton-esque, more Obama-esque type of Democrat, regardless of.
Hey, Tim, real quick question, man.
Yep.
Before you get off, because you mentioned a lot about moderate Democrats versus more progressive Democrats versus more progressive people in general. There's a lot of folks in this room who don't give a fuck about a Democrat or a Republican. Explain real quick, if you don't mind, in your viewpoint, the difference between the moderates, the progressives, and then like the more free-thinking black folks, because I want you to be very clear about what you're asking people and what you're telling people right now.
Hey, thank you, Marcus, my brother. I appreciate it. Well, very quickly, progressive Democrats. The reason why we call them progressive is not because of this affiliation, these names, these labels that we use. It's because of the policies that they support. Progressive Democrat, I would only use that term for a person who supports certain policies, ending mass incarceration, not with rhetoric, but says, hey, I want to legalize marijuana. That's what I'm running on. That's what he ran on. I'm not saying he would do it definitely going in immediately, but if not, we get his ass out. A progressive Democrat, which separates him from a moderate, is he'll do what Joe Biden. He will, at the end, when he's forced, he may support a policy, but then he'll make sure that policy has no teeth. Like saying he's going to pardon marijuana, simple possession of marijuana, which would actually remove no one, not a single soul has left prison gates because of Joe Biden of simple possession of marijuana. That's one of the differences between a progressive Democrat and a run-of-the-mill moderate Democrat policy.
Tim, let me ask you something before you go. Um, I want to bring it back to the topic that we're talking about. What do you think about this push to blame what happened in Georgia and this runoff and Stacey losing on black men?
Well, once again, I was detained early. I couldn't get here. I'm sure you guys have talked about it. The blaming black men is a trope. They use it to shift blame from the actual Democratic Party in the they made and the lack of campaigning or the lack of actual substance in the policies by the candidates, particularly for Georgia. We could go on and on about Stacey Abrams, but when you look at the data, you'll see that Stacey Abrams cannot get white people to vote for Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams, you cannot win a state that's 60% white with only getting 23% of the white male vote and 27% of the white woman vote. You cannot win that state that way. 90% of black came out and voted for Stacey Abrams, which is a far cry more than any other demographic in Georgia. We're not even going to talk about what the Latino folks did, but no one's going to denigrate them. No one's going to say that the Latinos did not pull their weight. They're going to say in the Tezlyn, you talked about this. They're going to say the Latinos, they made their choices. They're being strategic. They're using their votes to pry concessions for their people. See, so that's part of what we deal with as Black Americans when they use us as the scapegoats for all that's wrong with their party. So the other thing with the Stacey Abrams crew, look, Stacey Abrams been running for governor for the last 18 years. She been running for, look, no, she know you're going to run in 2022. She should have started running in 2020. She should have started running in 2019. You can't play away games. This was her opportunity. I feel that she could have won this if she was willing to put tangibles on the table and stand behind them. No afterthoughts. You don't take a regular policy, slap black on it, and say, I'm pulling for black people. Okay, that's not what you need. We need to be treated like all other parties. When you have a policy that you want to bring in Latino voters, you build that policy from the ground up about something that benefits Latino folks, that's going to have them excited to come out. That's not what was done in Georgia. So I don't want to hear this about black men didn't pull their weight or black women. And stop dividing us. You don't divide white women and white men. Stop dividing black women and black men up into groups and pitting us against each other. So that blame is that hashtag blame black men on fire. It should be on fire. We should have that shit trending.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for that. Always fire when you come through. All right, we're going to close it. My pleasure, my man. I got to chop it up with you a little bit later too, but we're going to close it down. It's 2:30.
Before you close it, can I just say this?
Absolutely.
I sent it to you and Marcus the message, but you didn't get it. You haven't seen it yet. But I hope you and Marcus also come, if you don't mind me doing a plug for my space tomorrow.
Go
I
right
would
ahead.
love to have you and Marcus pull up. Tim Black will be there. So many others. I've invited every last ideology. This is not just a Twitter space. It is an official Black Effect iHeartRadio Twitter space that I'm hosting. It will be on my podcast. Black Effect will be there as well. I want them to hear voices of those that I rock with in this space, whether I agree or not agree. So I'm very excited about this. It's tomorrow at 8 p.m. If you don't mind me I'll put it in the Jumbotron
Go
now,
right ahead.
so
I'll
people.
share it.
And I would love to have you and Marcus come through as well. I see Danny Glover is here as well, one of our colleagues that work with us, who also is a Georgia resident and has worked on campaigns. Also, Nina Turner will be there.
Shout out to
I
Danny
have
Glover.
some
Shout out.
Democrats. Yes, shout out to Danny
Oh wow,
Glover.
yeah.
Yeah, I have some Democrats there as well. Do one thing about it. I like to hear from every voice. So Leslie Williams and Nikki Barnes will be there as well. I have some conservative voices. Minaj Torre is there. Sonny Johnson from the faith-based community. Bishop Tabor Swan, and a lot of other folks that I know. I'll just be pulling in. But this will be an opportunity to hear from Black progressives, Black Democrat, Black Republican, and Black conservative. Those are all different things hosted by me and independent. And although I will take calls, it really is. This is a show, a podcast, and I want people to hear from people who have worked on these campaigns behind the scenes, and really get an opportunity to see what happened and why that happened, and just kind of unpack this just a little bit deeper. So for those who please register, I think we got almost 600 people who have already RSVP'd. So I know it's going to be popping. So make sure you are in the room tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
All right, I put it up as well, and I'll share it out on my stuff as well. So we're gonna close on that. Marcus, do you want to take us out with some final words?
Yeah. Hey, thank you for having this space, my brother. It's always amazing. Tezlyn, Tim, everybody who joined us tonight. Today. I really appreciate y'all coming on this debrief. Make sure you follow the hosts. Make sure you follow what Tezlyn is doing. Make sure you follow Tim Black right now and get on his. That brother's on every single night, damn near. Make sure you follow him. If you don't, you're kind of missing out on real speech. And the most important thing that I want to leave everyone with is don't just complain about it. Be about it. I ran for office and I lost bad, but I was talking about reparations in the middle of Arizona for a state house. I do it again, and I do
Yep.
it again, and I do it some more, and I do it
Bro,
again, and I do
that
it
sound like
again.
you came in there like the chef on Blazing Saddles. What the hell you was doing, bro?
Yeah, no, but I don't care. See, because to be honest with you, our issues are our issues, no matter where we are as Black folks in America.
The
What I
chef
want
is a
everyone
boom.
what I want everyone to do is to make sure that you think about either being the super volunteer, the super donor, or the super candidate. That is the debrief from yesterday. You don't complain about there's somebody speaking to us and speaking to our issues. When you got your issues in your back pocket, you can bring them to the table yourself. And if Tezlyn is running trainings across America, if Marcus has been preaching what he's been preaching about Black folks running for office, if all of these entities have consistently been about empowering us, we're here. Like, follow us now. Follow our pages right now, because we about making change, sustainable change and real change that makes a difference, right? And also, we'll teach you how to do it. So that's what I want to land with. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, brother. I didn't know you did. You didn't. You never told me that story, man. You pulled up like Sheriff Bart, trying to be the new sheriff of Rock Ridge, talking about reparations in Arizona. But I
The
got to hear that
sheriff
story.
is a thong.
Hey, but Tezlyn, do you have anything to say before we wrap it up?
No, he said it best. If you want to be a part of the training again, text push the line, all one word, PUSH the THELINE, all one word, to 66866. Want to show some love again to Lioness Crowned in the building. My sister Jade, who just is so down. She's another one that I think people should follow. Shout out to Naheem, the reparationist, the one who coined the word reparationist, which I learned yesterday. So many good folks in the room. And it's a lot of building here. So see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you tap in so we can really have this conversation and get some of this game.
All right, and that's where we'll end the show. Everybody, thanks to Tezlyn Figaro, Marcus Ferrell. Thanks to Real Tim Black for coming through on the end. Thanks to everybody who came out to listen to this on your Wednesday afternoon. We got about 700 people in here on a Wednesday afternoon in the middle of the day. That's a beautiful thing. And in my opinion, I think that shows that we do have a politically aware and we have a politically curious electorate. We just need to be given our marching orders, and we just need to organize, and we need to get some policy for ourselves, just like every other group does. And with that, we'll close it out. Do not blame Black men. What happened because it was designed to happen because people did not listen. And when you don't listen, what happens? Hard head make a soft behind, my grandma told me. So maybe people are listening in the future. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for your time. Y'all have a good rest of the day. Go out, get some fresh air, have some fun. Hope we put something on your mind. And see y'all in Tesla Space tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Peace.